Chapter 3468. The descent of the dark city caused the entire stone forest to tremble. A low growl came from the depths of the stone forest. It seemed that the powerful existence in the depths of the stone forest was hostile to the dark city that hovered above the stone forest. At this time, the ruler of the dark city was facing off against Gu Fei's doppelganger. Gu Fei's doppelganger was at a disadvantage and seemed to be losing. Swoosh! At this moment, a figure descended from the sky. Then, there was a flash of sword light. The ruler of the dark city's arm immediately fell off. Roar! The dark ruler roared angrily. Powerful demonic energy erupted from him. With him as the center, a terrifying wave of energy spread out. One stone pillar after another collapsed in the void, turning to dust. Endless demonic energy surged. Within the demonic light, the dark ruler's right arm that had been cut off by Gu Fei's doppelganger was rapidly growing back. In a few breaths' time, a new arm had grown out from his body. The dark ruler was furious. He stared at the figure that had suddenly appeared, his eyes flashing fiercely. After so many years, he had never been injured by anyone. But today, one of his arms had been chopped off. Although he didn't care about this kind of injury, it still made him very unhappy. The one who had attacked was Gu Fei. It had not been easy for his doppelganger to cultivate to this level. Naturally, he didn't want to be taken away by the dark ruler. Little guy, die. At this time, a voice suddenly sounded in the hearts of Gu Fei and Gu Fei's doppelganger. Gu Fei was shocked. He looked at the figure in the demonic energy and saw two spots of blood-red light flashing in the demonic energy. They were blood-red eyes. The blood-red demonic light was frightening. The demonic energy around the dark ruler was vast and mighty. The pitch-black demonic energy rushed high into the sky. Within the demonic energy, there seemed to be faint, illusory demonic shadows. The void also seemed to be filled with waves of demonic music. Come here. The dark ruler roared furiously, and a heaven-devouring force immediately surged from his body, instantly enveloping Gu Fei and Gu Fei's doppelganger. In the next moment, Gu Fei and Gu Fei's avatar felt their bodies tighten, and they flew uncontrollably toward the ferocious demon hidden in the demonic aura. What? Gu Fei and Gu Fei's doppelganger were taken aback. This demon actually wanted to devour them? At this time, there was no time for Gu Fei to think too much. He hurriedly activated the secret word of none and turned the devouring force that enveloped him into nothingness. Kill! Gu Fei bellowed. His gaze was incomparably sharp. He held the extreme Dao Divine sword in his hand and broke through the layers of devil qi, attacking the demonic figure in the middle of the devil qi. Swoosh! The immortal sword light rushed out from Gu Fei's hand and instantly slashed at the dark ruler's body. Then, it directly pierced through the dark ruler's body. The dark ruler lowered his head to look at his demonic body, and then raised his head to look at Gu Fei with a blank expression. In the next moment, the demonic body of the dark ruler gradually turned into dust, and then dissipated into the void, as if this demon had never existed in this world. The dark ruler died just like that? At this time, Gu Fei's doppelganger had already soared into the sky, rushing towards the huge dark city in the sky. The moment it neared the huge dark city, a figure directly rushed out of the huge dark city. The black figure directly intercepted Gu Fei's doppelganger. Boom! Endless demonic light erupted from the black figure. The demonic light was very terrifying, and anything that came into contact with the demonic light would instantly melt, destroying both its body and soul. However, the demonic mystique of the black figure was ineffective against Gu Fei and Gu Fei's doppelganger. The demonic light that shone towards Gu Fei and his doppelganger was completely turned into nothingness. Gu Fei's doppelganger slapped out with his palm and directly displayed the heaven-covering palm. The demonic figure could not dodge at all and was directly sent flying by the palm of Gu Fei's doppelganger. The powerful palm force caused the void to collapse and shatter. The power of the heaven-covering palm that Gu Fei's doppelganger naturally could not be underestimated. Boom! At this moment, a loud sound rang out from the dark city above. The entire city began to shake as a series of runes appeared on the surface of the city. The huge dark city gradually calmed down, and the entire huge city was enveloped by the demonic formation. Even if it was attacked, it would not really cause any damage. At this time, another loud sound was heard, and a figure was seen waving his fist directly at the huge dark city. The powerful and violent power shook the heavens and the earth, directly shaking the huge city. The person who was attacking the huge dark city was Gu Fei. As he punched the huge dark city again and again, the demonic patterns that emerged on the huge dark city gradually increased, and an extremely powerful demonic power was rapidly condensing. The terrifying demonic aura was vast and mighty between heaven and earth. The entire huge dark city seemed to have a life of its own. Under the threat of Gu Fei, the huge city seemed to be coming to life. Just as Gu Fei attacked the huge dark city, demonic figures began to appear in the huge dark city. These demonic figures were extremely powerful and directly rushed out of the huge dark city, pouncing towards Gu Fei and Gu Fei's doppelganger. That is, when Gu Fei saw this, he could not help but be shocked. He saw that these demonic figures were actually the same as the Dark Ruler. Could it be that this was the legendary demonic shadow doppelganger? The demonic shadow doppelganger was actually not a real doppelganger, but an existence similar to an incarnation. Demons who had cultivated this demonic mystique, once they used this demonic mystique, could have thousands of doppelgangers and be everywhere. Celestial execution. Without any hesitation, Gu Fei displayed the 9 heavenly punishing swords. Every time a sword light flashed, a demonic shadow would be slain. Break for me. With a roar, Gu Fei activated the extreme divine sword in his hand with all his strength, and then with all his strength, he slashed at the huge dark city below. The brilliant sword light fell from the sky, illuminating the entire dark sky. The cold sword chi was vast and mighty, directly dispersing the surrounding demonic chi. Just at the moment when the sword light was about to fall on the huge dark city, a layer of demonic light appeared in the sky above the huge dark city, actually blocking the sword light that rushed out from the extreme divine sword. What? Seeing this scene, Gu Fei could not help but be shocked. The entire huge dark city was actually enveloped by an incomparably huge extreme demonic formation. It should be known that only the power gathered by the extreme demonic formation could block Gu Fei's sword just now. At this moment, Gu Fei's doppelganger also rushed over, and then was taken into his inner world by Gu Fei. At this time, he had no choice but to personally take action. The figures of the demon spider of Een and the dragon head demon appeared in the distant sky. Without Gu Fei's orders, they did not dare to take action at all, and they were also happy to watch the show from the side, not having to fight with the demons in the huge dark city. Little guy, you've angered me. At this moment, the voice from before sounded in Gu Fei's mind again, and then, endless demonic light gathered in the huge dark city, turning into a demonic figure that stood up in the void. An unprecedentedly powerful demonic aura spread out from the demonic figure, and the void around the demonic figure constantly cracked, and then continuously repaired. The void of the world had the ability to repair itself. Haha, so what if I've angered you? Gu Fei laughed loudly. He used the extreme divine sword in his hand with all his might, and terrifying waves of sword chi spread out. The surrounding void kept collapsing, and it was as terrifying as the end of the world. The demonic figure stood in the demonic formation, also gathering power. Whoosh! The demonic figure directly stretched out its hand, and a devouring power that could devour the heavens and the earth instantly enveloped Gu Fei, and it pulled Gu Fei towards the demonic figure's hand. This move again, Gu Fei said disdainfully, and in the next moment, he used the secret art, none of the 9 secrets of a mortal path, and the devouring power from the demonic figure's hand was immediately turned into nothingness. At the same time, he flipped his left hand, and an ancient cauldron immediately appeared in his hand. Just as Gu Fei was about to use the cauldron to suppress the city of darkness, a figure appeared soundlessly behind him, and then struck him on the back with a palm. There was a bone-chilling sound of bones breaking, and Gu Fei was actually sent flying tens of thousands of meters away. With a boom, he smashed into the side of a mountain floating in the sky. A cloud of dust rushed out from where Gu Fei had crashed, and then spread out. The entire mountain shook, and cracks appeared on its surface. In the sky above the stone forest, or rather, in the sky above the entire graveyard of the gods, there were many mountain ridges floating in the air. Countless stone coffins were placed on these ridges. There were countless gods buried in the graveyard of the gods, and these corpses had been buried for a long time. Due to various reasons, some of them had turned into corpses. This was not impossible. At that moment, an incredibly powerful figure stood where Gu Fei had been standing. It was a figure shrouded in a gray aura of death. Can't even withstand a single blow. The expert shook his head and sighed. He was about to turn around and leave. However, at this moment, boom! With a bang, the mountain in the distance suddenly exploded. Countless rocks flew in all directions, and a cloud of dust filled the air. At the same time, a figure instantly appeared in front of the expert. Then, with a swing of his sword, he cut the expert in half. What? The demonic figure in the City of Darkness couldn't help but be shocked when he saw this. The battle prowess Gu Fei had displayed was much stronger than before. Where did such a powerful existence come from? The ruler of darkness muttered to himself. Although it was only a corner of the formation diagram, when it was unfolded, it actually enveloped a small part of the world. Naturally, it also enveloped Song Quebec. Song Ke felt the space around him distort. It was as if he had instantly entered a new world. His surroundings were filled with dazzling divine lights. Swoosh! Suddenly, a ray of divine light pierced through from the front. Song Ke hurriedly dodged and avoided this ray of divine light. However, very quickly, a second beam of divine light pierced towards him. Following that, more and more divine lights came from all directions, all of them piercing towards him. When this corner of the killing formation was activated, Song Ke, who was in the middle of the killing formation, was immediately in a dangerous situation. There were too many annihilating divine lights in the killing formation, and there was no way to avoid them. Song Ke did not dare to be careless. He roared, and a ball of golden light immediately emerged from his body. Countless annihilating divine lights that pierced through him were immediately blocked by Song Ke's protective golden light. The divine lights collided with the golden light, and the protective golden light actually rippled. Humph! You want to defeat me just like that? Song Ke said disdainfully. A sword light with an extreme Tao-level aura rushed out from his body and circled around him. The annihilating divine lights that pierced through him dissipated under the mighty sword chi of the sword light. As a former extreme Tao-level god ancestor, Song Ke naturally had more than one extreme Tao-level divine weapon. Although he gave the mountain river diagram to Gu Fei, the extreme Tao-level divine sword that he refined himself was his lifeblood. It was absolutely impossible for him to give it away. Moreover, because it was an extreme Tao-level divine sword that he refined himself, this extreme Tao-level divine weapon could instead burst out the most powerful power in Song Ke's hands. I don't believe that I can't kill you. The ancestor of the Skyfire clan, who controlled a corner of the ancient formation diagram, roared. At this time, he was already in a difficult position. Tens of thousands of Skyfire battle soldiers had been destroyed. Even if he could escape, he would definitely be severely punished. Therefore, even if he wanted to return to the central continent, he had to bring back some spoils of war. For him, Song Ke's head was undoubtedly the best spoil of war. However, it was definitely not an easy task to kill Song Quebec, huh? Then come and have a try, Song Ke said with a laugh. He was once an extreme Tao-level god ancestor and had personally experienced countless battles. Fighting with others was even more common for him. Even though he was trapped in a corner of the killing formation, he was still extremely calm, without a trace of nervousness. Just you wait. As the ancestor of the Skyfire clan spoke, he directly sat cross-legged in the void. The corner of the ancient formation diagram was fully unfolded in his hand, covering the sky and earth. An extremely terrifying aura of destruction spread between heaven and earth. The entire starry sky was shaking. In the starry sky that was covered by the corner of the killing formation, stars exploded one after another. The power of the stars was directly absorbed by the killing formation and turned into the power of the killing formation. A terrifying extreme Tao-level power was rapidly condensing. The ancestor of the Skyfire clan exerted all his strength to activate the corner of the killing formation. At this time, the void where Song Ke was located underwent another shocking change. Song Ke found that the void around him had turned into a void without any light, and the time around him seemed to have stopped. This was a place of absolute silence. He felt as if he had been thrown into an infinitely large dark universe and was imprisoned. Song Ke could not help but be moved. Just as Song Ke was trapped, in the sky above a stone forest in the Tomb of the Gods, Gu Fei and the ruler of darkness in the giant city of darkness moved. Two silhouettes instantly collided with each other, causing a loud explosion. After that, the two silhouettes separated in an instant. Powerful energy ripples spread out in all directions, causing the surrounding space to crumble. The entire city was shaking, and the super formation that enveloped the entire city was also activated, blocking the mighty energy waves that were descending from above. The cultivation and battle prowess of these two experts were no longer comparable to ordinary quasi-supremes. In front of them, ordinary quasi-supremes were as weak as ants. Bam! Boom! The two figures continuously collided in the sky above the giant city of darkness. Two supreme powers erupted with the most powerful might, and pitch-black holes constantly appeared in the void. Gu Fei and the ruler of darkness were like two creatures that could destroy the world. Wherever they passed, everything would be destroyed in an instant, turning into the most primitive nothingness. This was an absolute power that was infinitely close to the battle prowess of the extreme path. As long as their cultivation took another step forward, they would be able to reach the so-called invincible realm. In the eyes of all living beings, extreme path experts were invincible. However, Gu Fei was very clear that even if one became an extreme great expert, it did not mean that one could exist for eternity. Immortality and immortality were relative to extreme great experts. Boom! Gu Fei's fist collided with the ruler of darkness palm again. He only felt that the palm seemed to have produced a trace of suction, sucking his power over. What is he doing? Gu Fei was very surprised. Could it be that the ruler of darkness cultivated a demonic art that could devour power? This kind of demonic art did exist. The most famous one was the sky-devouring demonic art. This was a supreme demonic art that could devour even the heavens and earth. The ruler of darkness was stealing power from Gu Fei. Although the devouring power was weak, Gu Fei could still sense it. If it was an ordinary quasi-supreme being, they probably wouldn't be able to discover this trick. There was only one result. The more Gu Fei fought, the weaker he became. The ruler of darkness, on the other hand, was holding back a part of his power without Gu Fei knowing. In the end, the loser of this battle would naturally be Gu Fei. However, Gu Fei was no fool. Since he had already sensed the ruler of darkness' intention, he naturally wouldn't fall for it. He continued to pretend that he didn't notice anything and continued to fight the ruler of darkness. Roar! At this moment, the ruler of darkness suddenly roared. As he waved his hands, countless lightning bolts suddenly rushed out from his hands and bombarded Gu Fei. Every lightning bolt emitted a powerful destructive aura that made Gu Fei's heart palpitate. Playing with lightning? Gu Fei laughed. He had no intention of resisting and allowed the lightning bolts to strike his body. In an instant, his entire body was enveloped by the power of lightning. Haha, how comfortable. Again, did you not eat? Come at me fiercely. Gu Fei was bathed in lightning as he laughed heartily. He wasn't even afraid of the heavenly tribulation, so why would he be afraid of the ruler of darkness lightning? This level of lightning definitely couldn't compare to the heavenly tribulation. However, this was the devil lightning, so it had a demonic nature. Although Gu Fei wasn't afraid of lightning, he had to guard against the demonic nature of the devil lightning. Of course, his mind was extremely firm. Even the demonic nature of the devil lightning couldn't corrode his mind. Good fella. The ruler of darkness was shocked to see this. One had to know that his demonic lightning was no joke. Even a quasi-supreme being would be obliterated in body and soul if struck by a single demonic lightning, dying on the spot. However, this fellow was actually able to withstand the bombardment of his devil lightning. This fella's physical body had probably been tempered to the level of an extreme demonic artifact. The ruler of darkness had dominated the tomb of the gods for countless years, but this was the first time he had encountered an outsider with such a powerful physical body. Could this fella have entered the tomb of the gods to obtain that item? Chapter 3470. It was rare for an outsider to enter the graveyard of the gods. After all, the graveyard of the gods was a special place in the ancestral god realm. The graveyard of the gods was located above Ninefold Star region. It was the final resting place of countless fallen gods. No one dared to disturb the peace of the resting place of the gods. However, recently, many powerful existences had entered the graveyard of the gods. Rumor had it that an incredible item had appeared in the depths of the graveyard of the gods. It was this item that attracted the experts of the ancestral god realm. For some reason, Gu Fei had also entered the graveyard of the gods. He was fighting the ruler of darkness who occupied the graveyard of the gods. The ruler of darkness had a mysterious origin. He was probably an unconventional existence born in the graveyard of the gods. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so powerful. The graveyard of the gods didn't just bury fallen gods. There were also countless secrets. The ruler of darkness naturally categorized Gu Fei as a greedy outsider who wanted to obtain the item in the depths of the graveyard of the gods. Of course, Gu Fei had come for the ancestral sword of gods. He had no idea where the ancestral god was in the graveyard of the gods. He had come to try his luck, but now it seemed that he hadn't been lucky. Instead, he had been targeted by the ruler of darkness. He had no choice but to fight the ruler of darkness. Rumble. Monstrous demonic energy enveloped a part of the world. In the center of the demonic energy, a figure released endless demonic lightning. Bolts of demonic lightning shot out from this figure and bombarded another figure below. It was a supreme figure shrouded in demonic lightning. It could even withstand lightning at the heavenly tribulation level, let alone this mere demonic lightning. Haha, come at me fiercely. The figure engulfed in demonic lightning laughed. The ruler of darkness was shocked that the terrifying demonic lightning couldn't hurt him at all. Hearing Gu Fei's words, the ruler of darkness was both shocked and angry. This guy had the strongest physical body he had ever met. His demonic lightning couldn't do anything to him. Roar! The darkness sovereign howled in rage. His black hair fluttered in the wind, and he seemed to have gone mad. A terrifying blood-red light shot out from his eyes. His blood-red pupils were like two blood-red stars that twinkled. Streaks of black lightning shot out from his body, tearing through the void and instantly bombarding Gu Fei. Gu Fei's entire body trembled violently. This time, he only felt a numb feeling throughout his body. He had been electrocuted, and this kind of lightning was even more powerful than the devil lightning. That's interesting, but it's still not enough. You're still too weak. Work harder. Did you not eat? Gu Fei said. Preposterous. The ruler of darkness was about to go crazy. This guy was too despicable. He actually dared to talk to him like that. However, this guy had an extremely tough physique. He couldn't do anything to him for a while. Could it be that I was right? Haha. Looks like you'd better go back and eat your fill before fighting with me. Gu Fei said with a laugh, his tone filled with disdain. Go to hell. The ruler of darkness attacked crazily. Countless streaks of black lightning covered the sky and blasted towards Gu Fei. However, a scene that made him dumbfounded appeared. He saw that Gu Fei actually allowed the black lightning to hit his body. Moreover, he was even devouring and refining the terrifying destructive power contained in the black lightning. The ruler of darkness was shocked. Fine, you forced me to do this. The ruler of darkness stared at Gu Fei and said through gritted teeth. Then, his figure instantly disappeared into the void. In the next moment, the huge city of darkness began to shake. A wave of unprecedentedly powerful demonic power erupted from the huge city of darkness. In the center of the huge city of darkness, there was an ancient altar. At this moment, on this altar that had existed for God knows how many years, cracks began to appear. Moreover, the cracks on the altar continued to increase. Very soon, The entire altar was covered in cracks as if it could collapse at any time. The powerful wave of demonic power was coming from within the ancient altar. Huge demonic shadows appeared above the altar, like peerless demons that had come from the wilderness, overlooking the surroundings. In the sky above the huge city of darkness, Gu Fei could not help but be moved when he saw this scene. He seemed to have thought of a certain possibility. However, could there really be someone in this world who would be so cruel to himself? However, he immediately thought of the first ancestor of the Earth Spirit clan. That fellow was even more cruel to himself than to his enemies. Rumble. The entire huge city of darkness was shaking. Even the huge city had many cracks. If it was not for the protection of the extreme formation of the Great Path, this huge city might have already been destroyed. At this moment, Gu Fei sensed that the entire huge city of darkness was undergoing a shocking change. Endless demonic power was madly gathering towards the altar in the center of the huge city from all directions. Then, even the power of the extreme formation of the Great Path that enveloped the entire huge city was completely devoured by the altar in the center of the huge city. Under Gu Fei's shocked gaze, the entire huge city of darkness, starting from the periphery, gradually turned into dust. The dust then dissipated into the void. Good heavens! Seeing this scene, Gu Fei's expression immediately became solemn. If his guess was right, the ruler of darkness's real body was about to appear. It was no longer an incarnation. This ruler of darkness was definitely a ruthless fellow. He had actually destroyed a huge city so easily. One should know that this was a huge city. An ancient city that had existed for countless years had turned into dust just like that. The dust then dissipated into the void. In the end, everything was empty. The huge city of darkness continued to crumble and turn into dust. The pavilions and streets were all turned into dust. After the altar in the center of the huge city of darkness had devoured the endless demonic power, the entire altar began to crack and collapse. Two arms stretched out from the collapsed altar. It was a pair of huge arms that were dozens of feet long. Each arm was branded with demonic marks and emitted a terrifying demonic power that could destroy the world. Is it finally coming out? Gu Fei did not take the opportunity to attack. He wanted to see how strong this fellow was. Therefore, he allowed this fellow to increase his combat power. Roar! The altar in the center of the huge city of darkness finally collapsed. A figure climbed out from the altar. It was a demon, a huge demon. Demonic runes appeared and intertwined all over the demon's body, and a terrifying and monstrous aura erupted from the demon's body. You actually forced me to come out in advance. How dare you? The demon roared at Gu Fei. His real body had always been sealed in the altar. Although countless years had passed, his real body was still in seclusion inside the altar. Chapter 3471. The Dark Ruler had used a secret technique to seal himself within a huge city, then used an unparalleled array to gather boundless worldly essence to nourish his body. Although this method seemed harsh on himself, it was a way to quickly increase his cultivation and combat strength. Moreover, the Dark Ruler wasn't completely sealed within the city. The Dark Ruler's clones were everywhere within the city, and their combat strength was terrifying as well. They could mobilize a portion of the city's power. However, Gu Fei was simply too powerful. The Dark Ruler had no choice but to exit seclusion early. A huge demonic body appeared in the void, and black demonic lightning circled around him. Each bolt of demonic lightning tore through the void. The void where the Dark Ruler was distorted. He was so powerful that even this part of the world couldn't contain him. Good. Now that's more interesting. Not so boring. When Gu Fei saw this, a shocking murderous aura immediately erupted from his body. His battle intent surged, and the primal chaos divine light on his body pulsated like the primal chaos flame. A powerful and terrifying aura erupted from Gu Fei's body. The void around Gu Fei became unstable, as if it could collapse at any moment. Outsider, you deserve to die. The Dark Ruler glared at Gu Fei and gritted his teeth. He'd originally been able to succeed in a few decades, but now, everything had been ruined by this guy. You can't kill me, Gu Fei said coldly. Although the Dark Ruler was powerful, he wasn't to be trifled with. Haha, is that so? Let's give it a try then. The Dark Ruler opened his mouth and inhaled. An extremely powerful devouring force immediately enveloped Gu Fei, pulling Gu Fei forward. Gu Fei didn't hesitate. He immediately used the secret word of the 9 secrets of the immortal Tao, Void. The devouring force enveloping him was immediately reduced to nothingness. Void. The power of the secret word instantly enveloped a part of the void. In the next moment, the boundless worldly essence and demonic chi were reduced to nothingness. This was the terrifying power of the secret word of the 9 secrets of the immortal Tao. It could be reduced to nothingness by anything. The sovereign of darkness retreated in panic, but he was still struck by the power of the nunned character. His entire body stiffened, and his vital energy was injured. Where do you think you're going? Gu Fei used the 8 desolate steps, displaying his extreme speed of 8 steps, instantly catching up to the sovereign of darkness. Rumble, Gu Fei extended his hand, and a huge chaos hand immediately appeared in the sky and slammed towards the dark overlord. The chaos hand was like a chaos divine mountain that descended from the sky. The vast and mighty energy waves shook the heaven and earth, terrifying to the extreme. Oomph! The ruler of darkness sneered. He turned into a beam of demonic light that tore through the void and fled into the distance. However, Gu Fei possessed the world's fastest movement technique. The 8 desolation steps was said to be able to traverse the universe in 8 steps. In terms of speed, not many people in the world could match up to Gu Fei. Haha, didn't you want to kill me? I'm right here. Come at me if you can. Gu Fei laughed loudly. He closed in on the ruler of darkness again, but the ruler of darkness was too crafty. He once again escaped Gu Fei's pursuit. How dare you? When have I ever been in such a sorry state? The ruler of darkness was extremely depressed. The ruler of darkness was an exception. He'd never tasted defeat since his debut, but now he had to admit that he really wasn't a match for Gu Fei. Since he knew he wasn't a match, the ruler of darkness retreated into the depths of the graveyard of the gods. He didn't dare fight Gu Fei anymore. Gu Fei's secret word of none had truly intimidated the ruler of darkness. Otherwise, the ruler of darkness wouldn't have been defeated so quickly. At this time, the demon spider and dragon head demon rushed over from the distance and arrived at Gu Fei's side. Gu Fei didn't say anything. He immediately led the demon spider and dragon head demon in the direction that the ruler of darkness had disappeared. He wouldn't let the ruler of darkness off so easily. However, after passing through the stone forest, there was an endless graveyard. This shocked Gu Fei and the others. They saw that among the countless graveyards in front of them, some of them were very large. They were like mountain ridges that towered between the heavens and the earth. The entire graveyard was enveloped by an aura of death. Master, the demon spider and dragon head demon looked at each other. They both felt a trace of unease. Gu Fei didn't hesitate. He immediately rushed forward and entered the graveyard. The moment he entered the graveyard, one of the graves suddenly split open. A black shadow charged out from within. It was a demonic corpse. Its entire body was covered in a black aura. A terrifying aura emanated from this demonic corpse. Bang! Gu Fei sent out a palm strike, slapping away the evil corpse that was pouncing on him. The demonic corpse that had been sent flying shattered in the air. It turned into a cloud of black mist. Its body and soul were completely destroyed. Seeing the demonic corpse charge out of the graves, the demon spider and dragon head demon were shocked. They didn't want to die here without knowing why. The demon spider and dragon head demon were very cautious. Even Gu Fei didn't dare to be careless. He carefully moved forward. Boom! At this moment, there was a muffled sound. A grave that was only a few dozen meters away from them exploded. A black shadow charged out of the grave, pouncing towards Gu Fei. No one knew how many god corpses had become demonic corpses in this endless graveyard. If these demonic corpses were allowed to escape the graveyard of gods, who knew how many creatures would suffer in the end? Gu Fei naturally wouldn't let these demonic corpses escape the graveyard. He slapped out again, directly shattering this demonic corpse in the air. Not only did the powerful force of the palm shatter the demonic corpse, it even caused the air to collapse. There was no doubt about Gu Fei's strength. The demonic corpses in this graveyard couldn't even withstand a single blow. Even so, Gu Fei didn't dare to be careless. After all, this was the graveyard of gods. No one knew what dangers there were here. Gu Fei really wanted to capture the creatures in the graveyard of gods and search their souls. That way, he would be able to know the truth about the graveyard of gods. However, the demonic corpses in this graveyard didn't have their own consciousness. They didn't even have primordial spirits. Naturally, it was impossible to search their souls. Gu Fei continued forward. As he walked, he suddenly stopped and raised his head to look at a large grave to the side. He didn't know when, but he saw a black shadow standing on top of the grave, staring coldly at him. This? Chapter 3472. In the graveyard of the gods, Gu Fei scared off the ruler of darkness and successfully led the great demon spider and the dragon head demon through the stone forest. However, what he did not expect was that after passing through the stone forest, a boundless graveyard appeared in front of him. The entire graveyard was enveloped by a deathly aura that made even Gu Fei's heart palpitate. The deathly aura that filled the graveyard could be clearly seen with the naked eye. It was a deathly gray fog, and due to the existence of the deathly aura, the entire graveyard seemed misty and mysterious. Without hesitation, Gu Fei led the great demon spider and the dragon head demon into the graveyard in front of them and passed through countless graves. He did not dare to fly in the air. After all, there were definitely unimaginable dangers hidden in the graveyard. Flying in the air might be even more dangerous. Gu Fei and the others soon discovered that the ground of the graveyard was extremely hard. It did not seem to be easy to bury people here. Bam! The great demon spider in human form stomped on the ground. There was not even a footprint on the ground, only a dull thud. When the dragon head demon saw this, he couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. The ground here was actually so hard. Those who could be buried here were probably the most powerful existences in the world. One must know that even with their current cultivation and battle strength, it would definitely be a headache to build a tomb in this place. They continued forward, but they soon encountered trouble. There were evil corpses rushing out of the graves and pouncing at them. Gu Fei did not hesitate, nor would he show mercy. He directly attacked and blasted these evil corpses into pieces. However, right after Gu Fei dealt with the demonic corpses, a mysterious figure suddenly appeared on top of a large tomb that was only 100 feet away from them. Gu Fei stopped and slowly turned to look in the direction of the black figure. At this moment, the great demon spider in human form and the dragon head demon were shocked. Even with their cultivation and battle strength, they actually did not notice this fellow. Master is still the best. Both Tyrin and Dragon Head Demon couldn't help but admire Gu Fei. Gu Fei didn't say anything. He just looked at the black shadow on the grave mound. He sensed an extremely dangerous aura from this black-clothed man. Although the black shadow was just standing quietly on the grave mound, only a pair of eyes occasionally shot out a fierce gaze. His blood-red pupils caused people's hearts to palpitate. I finally met a decent opponent, Gu Fei muttered to himself. He didn't dare to be careless. Since the other party dared to appear in front of him, he naturally wouldn't be here to die. At this moment, the figure on the mound leaped up like a phantom, pouncing towards Gu Fei with extreme speed. What shocked Gu Fei the most was that when this mysterious black-clothed man moved, he didn't make a sound. Moreover, his speed was so fast that he was like a ghost, making it impossible to guard against him. Of course, this mysterious black-clothed man's opponent was Gu Fei. Swoosh! Gu Fei's figure suddenly became blurry. A pitch-black ghost claw directly pierced through his chest, but there was no scene of blood splattering. Then, Gu Fei's blurry figure dissipated in the void, and a black shadow replaced where Gu Fei originally stood. What? Seeing this scene, Tyrin and Dragon Head Demon, who were standing behind Gu Fei, were really shocked. Tyrin directly opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of divining fire at the black shadow. However, before the Tyrin's divine fire could burn it, the black figure disappeared into the void again. At the moment when the black shadow disappeared, a palm descended from the sky and directly slapped the place where the black shadow was. With a muffled sound, the void that was enveloped by the palm immediately collapsed and shattered. At this moment, Tyrin and Dragonhead Demon both retreated. The two figures moved quickly in the void. They were so fast that even Tyrin and Dragonhead Demon, who were transformed from the demon spider, could not catch their movements. Tyrin and Dragonhead Demon were extremely shocked. If the mysterious black shadow had attacked them just now, they would probably have been hit. One must know that Tyrin and Dragonhead Demon did not have powerful cultivation and combat power like Gu Fei. Against such a strange and terrifying existence, even if they could use their extreme Tao power, they would not be a match for this mysterious fellow. Bam! Boom! Gu Fei used the 8 desolation steps and displayed the world's fastest movement technique. He continuously clashed with the mysterious black shadow. Powerful waves of power spread out, shaking the heaven and earth. The mysterious black shadow's cultivation and combat power were extremely powerful. To Gu Fei, it was also a good thing that he could meet such an opponent. After all, his cultivation had just broken through, and he needed actual combat experience. Only in a battle could Gu Fei know how far his cultivation and combat power had gone. Boom! In next to no time, the mysterious figure was blasted flying by a single punch from Gu Fei, and he flew over 300 m away before colliding with a grave with a bang. The ferocious impact actually shook the grave mound. Countless cracks appeared on the mound, and wisps of black smoke emerged from the cracks. Roar! The mysterious man in black roared and rushed towards Gu Fei again. This time, a shocking aura burst out from his body. In the next moment, a cloud of black gas rushed out from the mysterious man in black and spread out instantly, enveloping Gu Fei. The black gas was extremely powerful. The void that was enveloped by the black gas was distorted. Naturally, Gu Fei did not dare to let the poisonous gas get close to him. He had his great Dipper Chi, which blocked all the black gas that gathered from all directions. At that moment, a loud sound rang out. The grave mound that was cracked open by the mysterious man in black had actually exploded. A black shadow rushed out from the exploded grave mound. An evil corpse? Seeing this scene, the Grand Elder and the Dragonhead Demon couldn't help but be shocked. The ghost that rushed out from the grave directly pounced towards Gu Fei. How dare they? Why are they targeting me? Gu Fei's face turned gloomy. Did these evil creatures think that I was easy to bully? Boom! An incomparably powerful fluctuation of power immediately burst out from Gu Fei's body. He punched towards the evil corpse that was pouncing towards him. Bam! With a muffled sound, a tyrannical fist force erupted from Gu Fei's fist and directly blasted away the evil corpse that was pouncing towards him. Roar! The evil corpse roared. Unlike the previous evil corpses, this evil corpse was not blasted apart by Gu Fei's punch. At the same time, the mysterious black shadow also made a move. This was the battle between the two great experts and Gu Fei. Even in the face of two great experts, Gu Fei was still fearless. Gu Fei's battle intent was like a rainbow. He directly punched out the 5 elements universe fist. This was a kind of combat skill that Gu Fei created by combining martial arts combat skills and supernatural power. It was a combat skill that belonged to him alone. Rumble. With just one punch, there was a shocking sound of wind and thunder in front of Gu Fei's fist. A fire element world opened up and devoured the mysterious black shadow into the fire element world. Soon, the mysterious man in black was completely trapped in Gu Fei's fire element world. At this moment, the evil corpse that was blasted away by him pounced towards him again. Haha, good. Gu Fei laughed and punched towards the evil corpse again. But this time, it was different. With this punch, a world evolved in the void in front of the fist and sucked the evil corpse in. Master is actually powerful to this extent. The Tyrin and the Dragonhead Demon, who were watching the battle from a distance, were stunned by the combat strength displayed by Gu Fei. Their master was getting stronger and stronger. With such a cultivation speed, wouldn't his master be about to break through the extreme grade realm? In the eyes of countless cultivators, The extreme grade realm was the ultimate goal of countless cultivators. Of course, to become an extreme grade Supreme Master, it still depended on fate. Not everyone could become an extreme grade Supreme Master, but once one became an extreme grade Supreme Master, he would be invincible in the world. If Gu Fei could successfully become an extreme grade Supreme Master, it would be a rare good thing for the Tyrant and the Dragon Head Demon. It should be known that when a person achieved the Tao, even his chickens and dogs would ascend to heaven. There was no suspense in this battle. The mysterious figure was directly refined by the 5 elements universe fist displayed by Gu Fei. Even the evil corpse suffered. After Gu Fei dealt with the mysterious black-clothed man and the evil corpse, he continued to move forward with the Tyrant and the Dragon Head Demon. Along the way, they were safe and sound. However, they didn't dare to relax their vigilance. They were in the graveyard, and no one knew how many experts of the celestial race were buried in this graveyard. No one knew how many corpses of the celestial race hadn't decayed and transformed. Soon, they walked for another half an hour. At this time, an incomparably huge grave suddenly appeared in front of them. Gu Fei immediately became spirited. The grave in front of them towered into the clouds like a mountain ridge. There was definitely a great figure buried in it. Otherwise, the grave wouldn't have been built so tall. Even though they were standing far away, they still felt a strong pressure. The grave that was taller than a mountain towered on the ground, making people feel incomparably depressed. This is, when the Tyrant and the Dragon Head Demon saw the huge grave in front of them, they were also shocked to the extreme. The person buried in such a grave was definitely an extraordinary existence. No one thought that Gu Fei and the others actually dared to go deep into the graveyard of the gods, and no one thought that Gu Fei wanted to touch the grave in front of them. Who's going to check out the situation in front? Gu Fei said. This. The Tyrant and the Dragon Head Demon looked at each other. They didn't want to go and check. Who knew if there was a formation protecting the grave? Chapter 3473. In the graveyard of the gods, a huge tomb appeared and blocked Gu Fei's way. Gu Fei's group had to stop. The huge tomb in front of them was really extraordinary. It towered into the clouds and was even bigger than a divine mountain. Strands of deathly gray fog lingered around the huge tomb, and a terrifying figure seemed to be faintly discernible in the fog. Even though they were still some distance away from the huge tomb, Gu Fei could still feel the invisible pressure coming from it. Even Gu Fei felt very oppressed, as if a terrifying beast was hiding in front of them. Which one of you should go and take a look? Gu Fei stared at the huge tomb for a while and then said, "What?" The Grand Elder and the Dragon Head Demon were shocked when they heard Gu Fei's words. What should they do? The situation was unclear now. If they went up now, wouldn't it be the same as courting death? Swish. Gu Fei didn't say anything. He directly waved his right hand, and a scroll immediately unfolded in the void. On the scroll, there seemed to be a world faintly visible. An extreme aura spread out from the scroll. This is. The Grand Elder and the Dragon Head Demon were shocked again. Now you guys dare to go up? Gu Fei said. Yes, Master. The Grand Elder and the Dragon Head Demon were instantly overjoyed. With this thing to protect them, where couldn't they go? They hurriedly reached out to take the scroll. Such a thing could only be safer if it was in their hands. The Grand Elder and the Dragon Head Demon both wanted to take the scroll, so they rushed to take it. However, in the end, Tyrant was still more skillful and managed to snatch the scroll away from him first. Ha! The Grand Elder looked at the scroll in his hand and laughed. He had never grasped this kind of Tao treasure before. He was so excited that his hands were trembling. However, the Grand Elder was also a bit carried away. At this time, the Dragon Head Demon who was standing next to the Grand Elder was a bit unhappy. Who told him to be the weakest among the 3 great stone devils in terms of cultivation and combat strength. Now that the Chaos Demon Ape's devil body had been destroyed, this was the chance for the Grand Elder to make a name for himself. However, it was not an easy thing for the Dragon Head Demon to stand up for himself. What are you waiting for? Gu Fei said indifferently. He was still observing the huge tomb in front of him. Yes, Master. We will take action immediately. Then, he called out to Dragon Head Demon and walked towards the great tomb in front of them. Dragon Head Demon quickly followed them. The scroll was in Tyren's hands, so Dragon Head Demon naturally didn't dare to leave Tyren. Otherwise, it would be very dangerous. Very quickly, the Grand Priest and the others approached the Great Tomb. However, they soon discovered that something was amiss. There seemed to be quite a few accompanying tombs in the surroundings of the Great Tomb. Moreover, these accompanying tombs were all built with huge stones. Although they were very simple, these accompanying tombs were also very extraordinary. Each of these accompanying tombs emitted a heart-palpitating aura. The accompanying tombs were like generals guarding the side of the monarch, surrounding and protecting this super-large tomb. Just as the Grand Priest and Dragon Head Demon approached this super-great tomb, the eyes of the two stone men who had been standing in front of the accompanying tombs for a long time immediately lit up. Rumble. The two stone men moved and directly pressed towards the Grand Priest and Dragon Head Demon. The huge stone sword directly slashed towards them. Both the Grand Priest and Dragon Head Demon were taken aback. The stone sword that the stone man slashed over actually emitted an extremely sharp sword chi fluctuation. This was simply like an expert of sword principle attacking. Oomph! The Grand Priest snorted coldly. Immediately, a sharp claw stretched out from his body and stabbed towards the stone sword. The sharp claw was like a demonic spear and instantly collided with the stone sword. Clang! The moment the Grand Priest's sharp claw collided with the stone sword, there was a sound of metal colliding, which made the Grand Priest and Dragon Head Demon very surprised. It was clearly a stone sword, but when it collided with the Grand Priest's sharp claw, it let out a unique sound of metal. It was really difficult for the Grand Priest and Dragon Head Demon to understand the reason. However, there was no time for the Grand Priest and Dragon Head Demon to think too much because the two stone men had already attacked. Not only was the original stone man not forced to retreat by the Grand Priest, but he also smashed his fist towards the Grand Priest. On the fist, there was actually a burst of powerful death energy. The Grand Priest hurriedly dodged. Boom! The stone man's fist smashed on the ground, causing the earth to tremble and the ground to collapse. The stone man actually smashed a huge pit in the ground. What? The Dragon Head Demon, who was watching from the side, was shocked. It had to be known that he knew how hard the ground here was. This guy actually smashed a huge pit in the ground with a punch. It was a little hard to imagine how powerful this punch was. Could it be that these fellows have become spirits? Said the Grand Priest as he dodged the stone man's attack. The two stone men were over 30 meters tall and huge, but their movements were also very agile. When the stone man with the sword missed its attack, the stone sword in its hand swept out and slashed at the Grand Priest's waist. At the same time, the other stone man with a stone spear attacked the Dragon Head Demon as well. The huge stone spear pierced through the void and instantly arrived before the Dragon Head Demon. As long as the stone spear pierced the Dragon Head Demon would definitely be destroyed. Although the two stone men hadn't executed any abilities, the strength they displayed was so powerful that the Grand Priest and Dragon Head Demon couldn't even catch up to them. Even such a simple and direct attack could kill a powerful existence like the Grand Priest, as long as it was powerful enough. The Dragon Head Demon naturally wouldn't fight the stone man head-on. He flashed and transformed into a demonic dragon that charged into the sky. After that, he swung his tail and fiercely whipped the stone man. Boom! With a loud bang, the stone man shook, but he only took a step back. Then, he stretched out his hand and directly grabbed at the demonic dragon that the Dragon Head Demon had transformed into. The Dragon Head Demon instantly transformed into a human with a dragon's head, and the stone man immediately grabbed thin air. Roar! The stone man roared at the sky, and the entire void shook along with his roar. Chapter 3474. Gu Fei sent the Grand Human and the Dragon Head Demon to explore the super tomb in front of them. However, when the Grand Human and the Dragon Head Demon approached the super tomb, they were stopped by two stone men in front of a tomb. The two stone men had extremely powerful strength, but they didn't seem to have any magical powers at all. This made the Grand Human and the Dragon Head Demon sigh in relief. If the two stone men also had powerful magical powers after possessing absolute power, then the Grand Human and the Dragon Head Demon would only be defeated when facing the two stone men. At this time, the Dragon Head Demon and the Grand Human used their extremely fast movement skills to fight the two stone men. They didn't want to fight the two stone men head-on because they definitely couldn't defeat the two stone men if they did. Bang! Just at this moment, the Grand Elder was once again sent flying 10,000 feet by the stone golem with a muffled thud. Roar! The stoneman immediately roared and slashed at the Grand Human, who was thousands of meters away. A cold sword chi immediately erupted from the huge stone sword. Swoosh! The stone sword moved quickly in the void. Wherever it passed, a huge crack was split open in the void. An extremely chaotic aura was emitted from the pitch-black crack. Seeing the stone sword coming at him, the Grand Human was shocked. He quickly stepped to the side and instantly moved dozens of meters away. The stone sword fell. Boom! The tomb that the Grand Human was originally standing on was split in half by the stone sword. Smoke and dust filled the air. The Grand Elder took a look and saw that there was something moving in the tomb that was split open. Soon, he knew what it was. It was a skeleton that was crawling out of the cracked tomb. What? The Empress Dowager was taken aback and quickly retreated. Who knew what kind of danger this white skeleton that had crawled out of the grave could pose? The dead souls in the graveyard of the gods evolved from the corpses of the experts of the God clan after they died. These undead spirits were far more powerful than ordinary undead spirits. These two stone men were the best proof. These stone men were simply too powerful. Even Grand Human and Dragon Head Demon, who possessed supreme demonic bodies, were not willing to fight it head-on. Boom! At this time, the Dragon Head Demon was also forced to retreat by the other stone man. The stone spear that fell from the sky directly blasted a large pit where the Dragon Head Demon was originally standing, causing soil and gravel to splatter everywhere. Too powerful. How could these guys possess such powerful strength? The Dragon Head Demon dodged the attack, but the might displayed by the stone man's attack was astonishing. Bam! The Dragon Head Demon directly smashed his fist on the stone man's shoulder, and the violent fist force instantly erupted. In the next moment, he was dumbfounded. He saw that although the stone man had been punched by him, he only took a step back before stabilizing his body. Then, he pulled out the stone spear that was stuck in the ground and stabbed at him. Under the Dragon Head Demon's shock and anger, he directly opened his mouth and spat out his natal demonic fire. The stone spear that pierced into the demonic fire directly shattered and was then burned to ashes by the demonic fire. However, the stone man seemed to not know the danger and continued to attack the Dragon Head Demon. The stone spear of the stone man, then its arm, then half of its body, and then its entire body collapsed. It was burned to ashes by the natal demonic fire spat out by the Dragon Head Demon. The Dragon Head Demon couldn't believe his eyes. Such a powerful stone man was burned to ashes by his natal demonic fire just like that? Seeing that the Dragon Head Demon actually got rid of a stone man, the Grand Human did the same and also spat out a mouthful of natal demonic fire at his opponent. The Grand Human's natal demonic fire was fundamentally different from the Dragon Head Demon's natal demonic fire. As soon as he spat out the demonic fire, the temperature of the entire void immediately dropped sharply, especially the void around the Grand Human. It was as if it was about to condense. The sword-wielding stone man didn't know the power of the great demonic fire at all, so he still slashed at the Grand Human's head. However, the movements of the stone man, who was instantly enveloped by the demonic fire, gradually slowed down. When the stone man's movements completely stopped, the stone sword that the stone man slashed out was already hanging above the Grand Human's head. Humph! The Grand Human sneered and directly stepped forward. Then, he pointed a finger at the stone man. In the next moment, cracks began to spread from his finger to the entire stone man. Let's go. The Grand Human called out to the Dragon Head Demon and then continued to move forward. The Dragon Head Demon hurriedly followed the Grand Human. Just when the Grand Human and the Dragon Head Demon went far away, the sword-wielding stone man collapsed and turned into fragments on the ground. These two fellows are quite capable. On the top of a mountain in the distance, Gu Fei couldn't help but nod when he saw this scene, which could be considered as recognition of the grand human and the dragon head demon strength. Ever since Gu Fei had come out of seclusion, his cultivation and combat strength had risen once more. His primal chaos true essence had begun to transform into primal chaos essence energy. This was absolutely an opportunity for Gu Fei to be reborn. At this time, the grand human and the dragon head demon had already arrived in front of the super big tomb. They saw streams of death chi falling from the super big tomb like huge dragons, shrouding the grand human and the grand human. The grand human and the dragon head demon didn't expect that they would be attacked as soon as they arrived. The terrifying death chi suddenly broke out. While the grand human and the dragon head demon were shocked, even Gu Fei in the distance had been paying attention to all of this. In the next moment, a scroll flew out of the grand elder's hand and unfurled. An extreme power immediately spread out from the scroll. The unfurled scroll enveloped the grand human and the dragon head demon, and blocked the death chi descending from the sky. Rumble. The sound of wind and thunder rang out, and the two forces constantly collided. The unfolded scroll floating above the grand human and the dragon head demon's heads also trembled. On the scroll, a picture seemed to come to life. A part of the world was evolving, and the power of the extreme Tao level was vast and mighty. This scroll was the mountain river diagram that Song Ke gave to Gu Fei that day. It was also this extreme Tao tool that was able to block the extremely strong power of death that erupted from the super big tomb. If it were not for the mountain and river diagram, the grand human and the dragon head demon would have died long ago. This? Chapter 3475. In the graveyard of gods, in front of a super tomb, a scroll was unfolded. On the scroll, there seemed to be a world coming to life. The mighty power of heaven and earth blocked the dragon-like death chi falling from the sky. The death chi fell from the top of the super tomb, like a group of dancing dragons. Each death chi was as huge as a mountain, crushing the void of heaven and earth. What's going on? At this time, below the scroll, the grand human and the dragon head demon turned pale with fright. They had just arrived in front of the super tomb, and they had already encountered such an attack. If it was anyone else, they would have been obliterated by the death energy from the super tomb, and their bodies and souls would have been obliterated. How would I know what's going on? The dragon head demon said angrily. Even though they used the mountain river diagram to protect themselves, they still felt a strong aura coming from the outside, almost suffocating them. Could it be that there is a supreme god ancestor buried in this tomb? The grand elder said. His voice was trembling. It's possible. The dragon head demon nodded and said, it was just a tomb, but it was too extraordinary. Without the protection of the mountain river diagram, even if they had the supreme god demonic body, they would be in trouble. At this time, Gu Fei, who was watching from afar, was also shocked. He saw that the towering super tomb in front of him had disappeared and was completely shrouded by the gray death chi that came out of nowhere. Inside the heavy death chi, there were constantly divine lights rushing out. Gu Fei sensed a wave of the power of heaven and earth coming from the front. Are they going to use the mountain river diagram so soon? Gu Fei was a little surprised. He knew the strength of the Grand Elder and the Dragon Head Demon. If they did not encounter an unsolvable danger, they would not use the mountain river diagram so easily. The mountain river diagram was a supreme Tao weapon. Using this kind of supreme Tao weapon would consume a lot of essence. Who dares to go to the Emperor's tomb? Just when Gu Fei was in shock, in another direction, above a tomb, two figures stood in the air, looking at the mighty death chi in front of them in shock. Humph! Those people might be tired of living. A small and skinny old man with dark skin said with disdain. From his point of view, those who dared to have any ideas about the Emperor's tomb were people who overestimated themselves. The fate of these people who overestimated themselves was already destined. Haha, that's right. They are courting death. Another fat man with a big belly and a fat face said with a smile. The fat on his body shook with his laughter. The commotion caused by the Grand Human and the Dragon Head Demon was simply too big. Boundless deathly energy condensed and deathly chi spread out. An extremely terrifying aura spread out in all directions in the world. Lightning flickered from time to time inside the deathly gray aura surrounding the super great tomb. It was the power of death that was blooming. The death chi was blooming. The death chi was blooming. The death chi. By this time, the news of a heaven-defying divine treasure appearing in the graveyard of the gods had already spread far and wide. Many experts from the ancestral god realm took the risk to enter the graveyard of the gods. Everyone wanted to get their hands on the legendary divine treasures, but not everyone could get their hands on them. It all depended on fate and luck. But in the eyes of the experts, the super tomb was called the Emperor's Tomb. It was the burial ground of the most powerful living beings in the ancestral god realm. In the ancestral god realm, no one dared to go to the Emperor's Tomb. Even the super forces that had existed for countless years did not dare. In fact, there were people who wanted to go to the Emperor's Tomb in the ancestral god realm, but they ended up miserable. There was a super force that wanted to break into the Emperor's Tomb and obtain the things inside. However, that super force used the power of the whole clan to attack the Emperor's Tomb. But in the end, they were almost annihilated. From then on, all the forces in the ancestral god realm knew that the Emperor's Tomb in the graveyard of the gods was not to be blasphemed. Those who dared to have improper thoughts about the Emperor's Tomb all ended up with bad endings. No one was optimistic about Grand Man and Dragon Head Demon. It was impossible to break into the Emperor's Tomb. Many experts of the God Clan just watched from afar for a while and left. But some God Ancestor experts did not leave and continued to watch. At this time, Gu Fei did not plan to take action, but he sensed that there were many powerful beings nearby. Rumble. Just at this moment, a war chariot rushed over from afar and stopped high up in the sky. The ones pulling the chariot were actually 9 silver-horned jiaos. A powerful, baleful aura emanated from the 9 silver-horned jiaos. Gu Fei found that the cultivation of the 9 silver-horned flood dragons was not weak. They were all sage-level savage beasts. Some experts saw the arrival of the silver dragon chariot and immediately retreated. These people did not want to meet the owner of the silver dragon chariot, so they retreated decisively. Pang family? Gu Fei looked at the chariot in the sky and was a little surprised. He did not expect that even the Pang family of the Middle Continent would send experts to the graveyard of the gods to obtain the legendary item. He did not know who the person from the Pang family was. Gu Fei and the fatty Pang Long of the Pang family used to be friends. But when he found out that Pang Long was using him, their friendship was over. What he hated the most were those who pretended to be friends with him on the surface, but secretly thought of how to use him. Rumble. The chariot pulled by the silver-horned flood dragons gave off a faint sound of wind and thunder. It was a bronze chariot with ancient divine patterns engraved on it. There was no dazzling divine light emitted from the chariot. It looked a little simple. However, no one dared to underestimate the owner of the chariot. The aura of the vague figure on the chariot made everyone's heart palpitate. Even though Gu Fei cultivated the martial path heavenly eye, he could not see through this person. Without a doubt, the person on the chariot was definitely an ancestor of the Pang family. After all, there were only a few people in the entire Pang family who could afford to ride in a silver dragon chariot. Shortly after the ancestor of the Pang family arrived on the silver dragon chariot, a resplendent divine light broke through the death chi in the sky. It descended from the sky and stopped opposite the silver dragon chariot. The terrifying power of the true yang surged out from the divine light, dispersing the surrounding death chi. The Skyfire clan is here too. Someone couldn't help but exclaim when he saw this. At this time, all the experts in the ancestral god realm knew that the Pang family and the Skyfire clan were at war. The two super forces wanted to destroy the other and become the overlord of the central continent. The Deep Sea clan did not care about worldly affairs and enjoyed a transcendent status. They naturally would not come out to fight with the Skyfire clan and the Pang clan for the position of overlord of the central continent. Therefore, regardless of whether the Skyfire clan or the Pang clan won in this war, one of the two clans would become the overlord of the central continent, or even the 5 great continents of the ancestral god realm. When the experts of the Skyfire clan met the experts of the Pang clan, a great war was inevitable. The nearby experts of the ancestral god realm were very tactful and retreated far away from the two fellows. Interesting. Gu Fei glanced at the two experts and retreated as well. The expert of the Skyfire clan was also an ancestor-level existence. His cultivation didn't seem to be any weaker than that of the Skyfire clan's ancestor who had fought endlessly with Tsang Quebec. At this time, the Pang clan's ancestor on the Silver Dragon chariot also erupted with a shocking aura. Two supreme auras collided. The two super experts had yet to make a move, but they were already fighting. The entire world and the void shook under the impact of the two auras. Without any words, the Skyfire clan and the Pang clan were like fire and water. They were mortal enemies. Kill. The super expert from the Skyfire clan roared and attacked the patriarch of the Pang clan. In an instant, endless divine light burst out like a rain of arrows, piercing through the patriarch of the Pang clan opposite him. The overwhelming divine light filled every corner of the void. No one would be able to avoid such an attack. Powerful divine Tao energy erupted, and the void was annihilated under the illumination of the divine light. The experts of the ancestral god realm who were watching the battle from afar couldn't help but be shocked. That guy from the Skyfire clan was going all out from the get-go? The blazing sun god is absolutely terrifying when he goes crazy. Someone recognized the identity of the super expert from the Skyfire clan. He was the fierce sun god. In the Skyfire clan, he was known as the mad god. This war god's cultivation and combat strength were among the top in the entire Skyfire clan. Pang Tongtian isn't someone to be trifled with. Someone said disapprovingly, "What? That person is Pang Tongtian?" Someone exclaimed, "Blazing sun god, Pang Tongtian?" Gu Fei muttered to himself. This was the first time he had heard of these two names. Of course, he wasn't an expert of the ancestral god realm, so it was normal that he didn't know of these two guys. However, the blazing sun god and Pang Tongtian were two lunatics in the eyes of the experts of the ancestral god realm. Moreover, these two lunatics had terrifying cultivation and combat strength. The two lunatics had met, and this was going to be an exciting fight. Pang Tongtian didn't dodge the blazing sun god's killer move because he had no intention of dodging it. The figure on the chariot simply slapped forward casually. Buzz. The void trembled, and a huge golden hand immediately appeared in the void. It emitted a monstrous wave of divine power and went to meet the divine light that pierced through the void. Chapter 3476. The news that a heaven-defying treasure had appeared in the graveyard of the gods had attracted countless experts. Even the scorching sun god of the Skyfire clan of the central continent had come. The scorching sun god was one of the few experts of the Skyfire clan. His personal arrival was enough to show that the Skyfire clan was very interested in the treasure that had appeared in the graveyard of the gods. However, the Pang clan had also sent a patriarch into the graveyard of the gods. Moreover, at this moment, the scorching sun god of the Skyfire clan and Pang Tongtian of the Pang clan met. Without any words exchanged, the two experts made their moves. Countless golden rays rushed out of the scorching sun god's body. Every ray of golden light transformed into an extremely sharp sword light that slashed towards Pang Tongtian. Rumble. The heavens and the earth shook. Pang Tongtian struck out with a huge golden hand. The huge palm blocked the sword light that pierced through, and the sword light shattered under the huge hand. The huge golden hand was extremely powerful. After shattering the scorching sun god's true yang sword light, it continued to slam towards the scorching sun god. The Lai Yang god snorted coldly. With a shake of his body, 9 balls of divine light immediately rushed out from his body and collided with the huge golden hand that was coming at him. The 9 balls of divine light that rushed out of the scorching sun god were like 9 true suns, illuminating the entire dark world. The mighty supreme yang divine power that spread out from the 9 balls of divine light filled every inch of the void. The divine power emanating from the 9 true suns almost crushed the void of heaven and earth. Boom! With a loud sound, the huge golden hand that Pang Tongtian had slammed into the 9 balls of divine light that had rushed out of the scorching sun god's body. The huge golden hand was instantly dispersed by the 9 balls of divine light. The divine power that erupted from the 9 balls of divine light directly shattered the void. The 9 balls of divine light erupted with terrifying destructive power and slammed towards Pang Tongtian. The supreme young divine power enveloped the entire world and naturally enveloped Pang Tongtian below. Kill! The scorching sun god roared angrily. The 9 balls of divine light descended from the sky towards Pang Tongtian at the same time. Pang Tongtian's expression did not change in the face of the blazing sun god's killer move. The moment the 9 divine suns descended from the sky, a terrifying devouring force suddenly appeared on his body. In the next moment, a pitch-black vortex appeared on Pang Tongtian's body, and his figure instantly disappeared into the void. The 9 balls of divine light that descended from the sky were directly swallowed by the vortex that suddenly appeared. The black vortex was constantly shaking as if it could collapse at any time. What? When the blazing sun god saw this, he could not help but be moved. To think that the other party would be able to cultivate such a mystic skill. This had far surpassed his expectations. Swoosh! Without hesitation, the burning sun god took a step forward and arrived before the black vortex in an instant. However, just as he was about to make a move, the black vortex exploded. A part of the void suddenly collapsed and swallowed the fierce sun god, who was caught off guard. Seeing this scene, the experts from the ancestral god realm who were watching the battle from afar were shocked. Pang Tongtian's technique was indeed very powerful. As a superforce in the ancestral god realm's central continent, the Pang family had a long history and a deep foundation that ordinary forces could not compare to. As one of the patriarchs of the Pang family, Pang Tongtian's cultivation was definitely immeasurable. This Pang Tongtian is quite capable. Gu Fei could not help but nod when he saw this scene from afar. The mystic skill that Pang Tongtian had displayed was also very extraordinary. He was using the power of the burning sun god to trap and kill the burning sun god. Of course, this method was very dangerous, and one could hurt themselves if they were not careful. It should be known that the power of others was not that easy to control. Boom! At this moment, there was a loud sound and the void shook. A large area of the void collapsed and 2 figures shrouded in divine light rushed out of the shattered void. Damn you, Pang Tongtian! A figure shrouded in divine flames stopped high in the sky. The powerful power of the great path of fire emanated from his body, and the surrounding void was distorted by the fire divine power. This person was the expert of the Skyfire clan, the Burning Sun God. The Burning Sun God was in an extremely sorry state. His clothes had become tattered and hung on his body. His hair was messy like a bird's nest, and there was a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth. The Burning Sun God glared fiercely at Pang Tongtian, wishing that he could swallow this despicable guy. He had never been in such a sorry state since he started cultivating. Haha! Pang Tongtian laughed loudly. The Burning Sun God was shocked and angry, but he did not dare to act rashly. His opponent's cultivation was very strong. He stared at Pang Tongtian as his aura continued to rise. The aura that erupted from Pang Tongtian's body was also rising. 2 extremely powerful auras collided, and both wanted to overwhelm the other. Just as the 2 experts were confronting each other, intense waves of divine power came from the direction of the Emperor's tomb. The waves of divine power at the extreme path level came from the direction of the Emperor's tomb. What's going on? Has the Emperor's tomb been breached? Someone exclaimed. Immediately, someone rushed towards the Emperor's tomb. It was important to know that once the Emperor's tomb was breached, the things inside would fly out. The things inside the Emperor's tomb were all psychic. Once the Emperor's tomb was breached, the things inside would naturally escape. This was common knowledge to the experts of the ancestral god realm. Some of the Emperor's tombs that had problems would have psychic divine items flying out from time to time, and then being taken away by the fated person. What's going on? Gu Fei looked in the direction of the Emperor's tomb, then took a step forward and instantly disappeared into the void. The next moment, when he reappeared, he was already near the Emperor's tomb. At this moment, within the endless death chi, a scroll emitted a towering divine light and protected two figures as it broke through the seal of the death chi and flew out. With a wave of Gu Fei's hand, the scroll flew towards him. Swoosh! At this moment, a huge hand suddenly appeared and grabbed the scroll. What? Gu Fei was displeased. Someone actually dared to snatch his item? That person was simply courting death. With a shake of his right hand, an incomparably powerful wave of energy immediately spread out from his hand. The hand that was grabbing towards the scroll was immediately shattered in the void. At the same time, a figure appeared in the void nearby. Friend, those who see it have a share. You can't just take this divine treasure away like this. A voice rang in Gu Fei's mind. The middle-aged expert who suddenly appeared continued to make his move. A divine rope directly flew out from the expert's hand and rolled towards the scroll. Humph. Hearing this guy's words, Gu Fei's face instantly darkened. He was very displeased. He directly stretched out his right hand and instantly grabbed the divine rope, then he forcefully pulled. The middle-aged expert only felt his hand shake, and the divine rope in his hand actually flew out. What? The middle-aged expert was truly shocked. At this moment, he finally realized that he had provoked someone he shouldn't have. The other party's cultivation was so strong that he couldn't handle it. At the same time, the scroll had already fallen into Gu Fei's hand. He shook the scroll and two figures fell out from the scroll. Two extremely powerful demonic auras suddenly appeared between the heavens and the earth. Greetings, Master. The two extremely powerful demonic beings knelt towards Gu Fei as soon as they came out. Seeing this scene, the middle-aged expert was even more shocked. He could feel the extremely powerful demonic aura from the two demons. The cultivation and battle strength of the two demons were definitely not below his. Who was this black-robed young man to actually be able to subdue such powerful demons? It wasn't that there weren't any demons in the ancestral god realm, but there really weren't any traces of demons in the 5 continents of the ancestral god realm. However, there were demons in the extraterrestrial demon domain and the graveyard of the gods. This was an indisputable fact. An existence that could subdue such powerful demons was definitely not someone an ordinary person could provoke. Scram. Gu Fei didn't even look at the middle-aged expert and said coldly, "This, my divine rope." The middle-aged man wanted to take back the divine chain that Gu Fei had taken from him. "I'll give you one more chance. Hurry up and scram, or else you won't have to." Gu Fei's tone carried a trace of killing intent. The middle-aged expert gave Gu Fei a deep look, then turned around and left. He didn't even want the divine rope anymore. At this time, nothing was more important than his own life. "Master, leave this guy to us. We'll definitely make him beg for death." The Grand Elder said viciously, "Forget it. There's no point in killing." Gu Fei shook his head. This wasn't because he was soft-hearted, but because he felt that there was no need to do such a thing. If there was no need, then there was no need to do it. He lowered his head and looked at the divine rope in his hand. A quasi-supreme aura spread out from the divine rope. This was a quasi-supreme divine artifact. No wonder this guy dared to snatch the mountain and river diagram. One must know that in the entire ancestral god realm, quasi-supreme existences were still very few. A quasi-supreme divine artifact would definitely allow that middle-aged expert to do whatever he wanted in the ancestral god realm. Leave the divine artifact in your hand, then scram. At this time, a loud shout came from afar. Gu Fei turned around and looked in the direction of the voice. He saw a powerful figure rushing towards him. The powerful aura emitted from this figure shook the surrounding void. "Leave the thing and scram. Do you want me to personally send you off?" The voice came again. At the same time, the figure had already arrived in front of Gu Fei and stopped in the void. "You've got guts." Gu Fei looked at the tall and burly man in beast skin and gave him a thumbs up. Chapter 3477. The Emperor's tomb couldn't be breached. This was the consensus of all the experts in the ancestral god realm. Since ancient times, no one had been able to breach the Emperor's tomb. The Emperor's tomb was said to be the tomb of the strongest living beings in the ancestral god realm. Even an extreme supreme being wouldn't be able to open such a tomb easily, let alone others. However, some of the experts were shocked because the two demons that attacked the emperor's tomb were able to escape unscathed. This was an extremely rare occurrence. At this time, an expert from the ancestral god realm dressed in beast skin actually directly told Gu Fei to leave behind the mountain and river diagram and the divine rope, then scram. Ha! Looking at the burly man, Gu Fei could not help but burst out into laughter. This fellow was truly gutsy to dare to utter such words in front of him. Little guy, are you courting death? The great devil spider that was kneeling in front of Gu Fei looked coldly at the guy in the sky. Humph, just two little demons. You don't have the right to speak here. The burly man in animal skin shot a disdainful glance at the great human and dragon head demon that were kneeling in front of Gu Fei. What did you say? The dragon head demon's eyes suddenly emitted an ominous glint. Is this guy really so powerful, or does he really not know how to write the word death? This guy actually dares to provoke that killer? Some of the ancestral god realm experts who recognized Gu Fei were really impressed by the burly man in animal skin. This guy was really amazing. This is really unbelievable. Does he know who he is talking to? An expert from the East Continent, one of the 5 continents of the ancestral god realm, said, Gu Fei's reputation in the East Continent could be said to be well known. No one was willing to provoke such a killer. After all, the destruction of the Golden Crow clan was a warning. However, the expert in animal skin was definitely not from the East Continent. This was something that Gu Fei knew. What? Why don't you leave the things and scram? Do you really want me to do it myself? The burly man in animal skin said arrogantly, This guy wants me to scram. What do you think I should do? Gu Fei seemed to be talking to himself as he looked at the sky with a profound gaze. Master, let's teach this little fellow how to write the word death. Grand Elder said coldly. Gu Fei said nothing. The great demon spider and the dragon head demon looked at each other, then stood up from the ground and looked coldly at the guy in beast skin in the sky. In their eyes, this guy was already a dead man. However, in the eyes of that burly man, weren't the grand human and the dragon head devil 2 dead devils? Kill. The beast skin man roared. He stretched out his hand, and a huge hand of ice immediately appeared in the void. Then, it slapped towards Tyron and the others below. You! The beast skin man was shocked and angry. Under his agitation, he coughed up blood again. Dragonhead, what are you doing? Those are my spoils of war. At this moment, a voice came from afar. A figure was walking over from the distant sky. In an instant, he arrived in front of the beast-skinned man and walked down from the sky. TCH, don't be so stingy. Those aren't anything good. The dragon head demon said disapprovingly. A quasi-supreme divine saber and a holy venerate pearl. These aren't good things. Don't hide it. I saw it all. The great demon spider stared at the dragon head demon's hands and said, Everyone who saw it has a share. How about half each? The dragon head demon said with a smile, Give me that divine saber. I'm not interested in anything else. The great demon spider said indifferently. Although this beast-skinned man couldn't withstand a single blow, he still had 1 or 2 good things on him. Of course, the things that could catch the great demon spider's eyes were at least quasi-supreme venerates. He wasn't interested in most of the things below that level. Haha, good. Second brother sure is straightforward. The dragon head demon laughed. Then, he took out the divine saber and threw it to the great demon spider before continuing to loot the beast-skinned man happily. The other experts nearby couldn't help but be moved by the fact that the 2 demons were openly looting the experts of the god race. Some of them directly retreated. As for the experts of the god race who thought that they could fight against the 2 demons, they didn't have any intention of retreating. Bold demons. You 2 are too impudent. At this moment, an aged voice rang out. Then, an old man with white hair and beard walked over from the sky. This old man held a black walking stick in his hand. The great demon spider and the dragon head demon looked in the direction of the voice. When they saw the old man, their eyes couldn't help but narrow. Their gazes fell on the black walking stick in the old man's hand. The black walking stick actually emitted a faint demonic aura. The black walking stick was segmented. Upon closer inspection, It was actually a spine. Clearly, this was the spine of an expert from the demons. This old man had actually killed an expert from the demons and refined his spine into a magic wand. With the old man's cultivation, it was still difficult for him to completely refine the demonic aura on the magic wand. It was enough to show how powerful the owner of the spine was. You! The great demon spider stared at the old man who was already close to him. A powerful killing intent immediately erupted from his body, causing the surrounding temperature to drop rapidly. This is Ancestor Wu Chun of the Western continent. Someone recognized the old man. What? He's still alive. Someone exclaimed. The Western continent was one of the 5 great continents of the ancestral god realm. In the war of gods and demons, the Western continent could be said to have suffered heavy losses because the Western continent had been conquered by the demons. At that time, Ancestor Wu Chun was already a famous expert. He had participated in that war and killed many experts from the demons. The black walking stick in Ancestor Wu Chun's hand was forcibly pulled out from the body of an expert from the demons. Although the black walking stick was a demonic object, it was still very powerful. Of course, Gu Fei didn't know the origin of this old man. The great demon spider and the dragon head demon didn't know either. Therefore, they didn't care about this old man at all. Little demon, how dare you be so presumptuous? Do you think there's no one in the ancestral god realm who can defeat you? Ancestor Dustless stopped in midair. An extremely powerful force immediately erupted from his body, causing the entire void to tremble. Gu Fei was a little surprised. He actually sensed a faint aura of the extreme way from Ancestor Wu Chun. Although this aura was very weak, it was indeed the aura of the extreme way. Could it be that he actually took that step? Gu Fei was a little suspicious. If this guy really took that step, then he would be unlucky. He was very clear that no matter how heaven-defying his battle power was, he was definitely not a match for a true expert of the extreme way. He was still aware of this point. This is a great enemy. Intuition told Gu Fei that this old man was not to be trifled with. However, so what if he was not to be trifled with? He had never been afraid of anyone. With Ancestor Wu Chun taking action, these guys are dead for sure. Someone was surprised and delighted. The appearance of Ancestor Wu Chun was unexpected. Could it be that the divine treasure in the graveyard of the gods had even attracted such a person? This was not a good thing for everyone. It should be known that even these people wanted to obtain the divine treasure. The battle for the divine treasure would definitely be extremely tragic. Chapter 3478. The news that a heaven-defying divine artifact had appeared in the graveyard of the gods had long since spread throughout the entire ancestral god realm, attracting countless experts from the 5 great continents of the ancestral god realm to take the risk and charge into this forbidden ground. The burial ground was located above the 9-fold star region, above the 5 great continents. In the ancestral god realm, some of the older generation's powerhouses viewed the burial ground of the gods as the ancestral god realm's 6th continent. In truth, based on the size of the burial ground, it was definitely not smaller than any of the great continents in the ancestral god realm. However, the burial ground was very mysterious. Not only did it bury the strongest experts of the god race since ancient times, it also buried countless secrets. No one knew how dangerous the graveyard of the gods was, and no one knew what was hidden in its depths. But now, someone had spread the rumor that the #1 divine artifact in the ancestral god realm, the myriad god ancestral sword, had actually appeared in the graveyard of the gods. The myriad god ancestral sword was the #1 divine weapon in the ancestral god realm since ancient times. However, this #1 divine weapon had already become a legend. Even during the Great War of Gods and Devils, it did not appear. In other words, the 10,000 gods ancestral sword had already disappeared during the Great War of Gods and Demons. Otherwise, during the Great War of Gods and Devils, if the experts of the ancestral god realm had a great killing weapon like the myriad god ancestral sword, why didn't they use it? The news of the appearance of the 10,000 deities' ancestral sword was something that even an otherworldly expert like Ancestor Dustless could not sit still and personally came over. At this moment, In the sky above a region thousands of miles away from the Emperor's tomb, Ancestor Wuchen was looking down at the two demons below. These two demons were the Supreme Demon Spider and the Dragon Head Demon. Go to hell, demon. Ancestor Wuchen did not waste any more words. He waved the black demon bone staff in his hand, and a demonic dragon immediately rushed out from the bone staff, pouncing towards the Tai-In demon spider and the dragon head demon below. A powerful demonic power burst out from the demonic dragon's body. The Supreme Demon Spider and the Dragon Head Demon were both startled. This guy was a god race expert, but when he used the Devil Tool, the power of the Devil Tool was still so strong. Of course, regardless of whether it was a demonic artifact or a divine artifact, as long as the user's cultivation was high enough, they would be able to use it. However, when a god race powerhouse uses a demonic artifact, the power of the demonic artifact should be greatly reduced. Thinking of that, the eyes of the great demon spider and the dragon head demon immediately shone. If they used that magic tool, wouldn't they be even more powerful? Buzz. The divine blade in the hands of the demon spider of Tai-In transformed into a dazzling blade light, breaking through the darkness and instantly colliding with the demon dragon. This was something that made everyone feel strange. The strongest of the divine race was actually using a powerful demonic artifact to attack the demons, while the demons were using the divine artifact to fight back. Boom! With a loud bang, the power of the divine way and the demon way exploded in an instant. The extremely overbearing power tore through the void, and pitch-black spatial cracks appeared between the heavens and the earth. However, the space within the graveyard of the gods was incomparably stable. Those spatial tiers quickly disappeared into the void, just like real lightning, appearing and disappearing in an instant. Kill. At this time, the dragon head demon also made his move. He soared into the sky, and endless demonic dragon power erupted from his body. A demonic dragon claw appeared in the void and grabbed at Ancestor Wuchen, who was in the sky. Ancestor Dustless did not say anything and directly rushed up. Boom! The huge dragon claw crumbled right away. Ancestor Dustless rushed over and then stomped down on the dragon head demon. The powerful power of the divine way exploded instantly. Bam! The place where the dragon head demon was collapsed right away. The powerful dragon head demon was actually stomped into the depths of the earth by Ancestor Dustless. Swoosh! At the same time when Ancestor Dustless stepped on the dragon head demon, a blade light directly slashed in front of him. Wherever the sharp blade light passed, a long crack was left in the void. However, Ancestor Dustless actually grabbed the blade light that was slashing down and then exerted force. The dazzling blade light instantly collapsed in his hand. In the next moment, Ancestor Dustless appeared in front of the demon spider of Tai-In. How can he be so fast? The great demon spider was taken aback. Without thinking, he struck out with his palm. However, at the moment when the demon spider made its move, the black bone magic staff in Ancestor Dustless' hand struck the demon spider's head hard. Bam! A muffled sound. The demon spider cried out tragically and flew out horizontally, directly smashing onto a burial mound, causing the entire burial mound to explode. A stone coffin appeared under the mound of earth that had been blown apart. The demon spider of Tai-In stood up. His hair was disheveled. The area on his forehead that was struck by the black bone magic staff actually had cracks spreading out. It was as if a crack had appeared on a stone statue. The demon spider walked out from the dust and mist. The cracks on his forehead gradually reduced and finally disappeared completely, as if he had never been injured. What? Those divine race powerhouses who saw this scene from afar were all shocked. This demon's demonic body was actually powerful to such an extent that it could withstand a blow from Ancestor Dustless. One had to know that Ancestor Dustless was one of the most powerful existences in the West continent. He already attained Tao during the Great War of Gods and Demons, and lived all the way until the present. Ancestor Dustless had not walked in the world for a long time, but this time, he could not sit still. The deity ancestral sword, to those powerhouses of the older generation, had a fatal temptation. Everyone wanted to get it and make it their own. Legend had it that this #1 divine weapon in the ancestral god realm hid the secret of how to become a supreme god ancestor. Roar. At this time, the earth shook. A powerful demonic power erupted from the depths of the earth, and the ground immediately undulated like waves from the impact. Boom. In the next moment, the ground exploded, and a powerful demonic shadow directly rushed out from the ground. Kill. At the same time, the demon spider of Tyene also moved. He roared and directly attacked Ancestor Dustless. The power of Een surged out from his body and instantly froze thousands of miles. At this time, the dragon head demon directly turned into a demonic dragon and pounced towards Ancestor Dustless. The huge demonic dragon was like a black mountain ridge, with a pair of dragon claws the size of a small hill, directly grabbing towards Ancestor Dustless. This time, it was not a dragon claw condensed by the power of the demonic dragon, but a real dragon claw. The two great demonic experts attacked at the same time, and the entire heaven and earth was shrouded by the power of the demonic path, forming a terrifying domain, trapping Ancestor Dustless in the domain. A great battle broke out. The combat power that Ancestor Dustless displayed was too strong. With one attack, he shook off the demonic dragon that the dragon head demon transformed into, and then swept away the attacking demon spider of Tyene with a staff. Seeing this scene, everyone was incomparably shocked. Naturally, the experts of the older generation of the Divine Clan knew how powerful Ancestor Dustless was, but seeing that he could actually suppress the two great demons, they could not help but be moved. Again, the demon spider of Tyene and the dragon head demon attacked Ancestor Dustless again. They had the strongest demonic body and would not be easily defeated by Ancestor Dustless. This kind of stone-based supreme demonic body also had an advantage, which was that it was almost indestructible. Of course, if the opponent was strong enough, even if he had this kind of demonic body, he would still be killed, just like the previous Chaos Demon Ape. The strength of the Chaos Demon Ape was unquestionable. It was an existence that could compete with Tsong-Ke, but it was also destroyed by someone, leaving only its spirit to escape. However, Ancestor Dustless was really too strong. The demon spider of Tyene and the dragon head demon were constantly being blasted away, and even the void was torn apart. Even the Chaos Chi was hit out. At this time, Gu Fei did not plan to attack. He wanted to see how much of this guy's combat power could be forced out by the demon spider of Tyene and the dragon head demon. Ancestor Dustless still had some strength left. This guy's cultivation was definitely infinitely close to the extreme grade realm. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to suppress the demon spider of Tyene and the dragon head demon, who had the power of the extreme grade. The demon spider of Tyene and the dragon head demon went crazy. They attacked with all their strength, and the terrifying demon power of Tyene exploded from the demon spider of Tyene. The void froze, and the whole world was sealed in ice. The experts of the ancestral god realm who were watching the battle nearby hurriedly retreated far away. They did not want to be caught in the crossfire. The battle between experts of this level was incomparably terrifying. If they were affected, they would definitely die. Only Gu Fei did not move. The cold chi of Tyene couldn't do anything to him at all. A mass of primordial chaos divine light spread out from his body and blocked the demon power of Tyene. The power of the demon spider of Tyene was also unable to seal Ancestor Dustless. Ancestor Dustless directly shattered the frozen void and attacked the demon power of Tyene. Bam! The black bone devil staff in Ancestor Dustless' hand smashed directly on the body of the dragon head demon, and the dragon head demon was smashed away. At the same time, he also exchanged a palm strike with the demon spider of Tyene. The demon spider of Tyene was sent flying. However, half of Ancestor Dustless' body was instantly sealed in a thick layer of ice. Humph! Ancestor Dustless snorted coldly. His body shook, and the thick layer of ice on his body immediately shattered. You overestimate yourself. Let me send you on your way. Ancestor Dustless glanced at the demon spider of Tyene and the dragon head demon, and then said, at the same time, an even more powerful aura exploded from his body. What? The demon spider of Tyene and the dragon head demon were very shocked. This guy actually held back his strength? How could this be possible? Could he be a supreme god ancestor? Die. Ancestor Dustless stretched out his hand, and countless rays of divine light immediately rushed out from his 5 fingers. The divine light intertwined and turned into a big net, which enveloped the demon spider of Tai-In and the dragon head demon. The demon spider of Tai-In and the dragon head demon naturally did not want to wait for death. They attacked with all their strength, wanting to tear the big net that enveloped them. Chapter 3479. Ancestor Wu Chun showed his power. He stretched out his hand, and endless divine light rushed out of his hand. It instantly interweaved into a big net, covering the demon spider and the dragon head demon. Boom! Towering divine fire immediately erupted from the net, burning the void and destroying it. It was incomparably terrifying. Roar! The demon spider and the dragon head demon were instantly swallowed by the divine fire. The demon spider and the dragon head demon immediately roared in the sea of fire, and there was a hint of panic in their voices. Haha, you're still not dead this time? At this time, the man in animal skin who was robbed by the demon spider and the dragon head demon laughed. Seeing the 2 demons being defeated, it would be strange if he did not gloat. You seem to be very happy that my people are unlucky. Just when the man in animal skin was surprised and happy, a voice suddenly came from behind. Haha, of course I'm happy. I can't wait for these 2 guys to die. Ah no. The man in animal skin suddenly came to his senses, and a layer of sweat immediately appeared on his forehead. The man in animal skin panicked. He was too proud just now, and he actually forgot that there was a big guy behind him, and this big guy was the master of the 2 demons. Thinking of this, the man in animal skin could no longer be happy, and both his legs were trembling. At this moment, Gu Fei waved his sleeve, and the man in beast skin immediately rose into the air, disappearing without a trace. Only the earth-shattering shriek of the man in beast skin reverberated in the heavens and earth. He still did not plan to attack. The big net in the sky was shrinking, and the demon spider and the dragon head demon, who were trapped in the big net, roared continuously, wanting to rush out. However, the power of the big net that Ancestor Wu Chun had evolved was extraordinary. Even if the demon spider and the dragon head demon used all their skills, it was still difficult to tear the big net and rush out. Damn it! The demon fire on the demon spider's body was mighty. It was the demon fire of Yin, which was enough to burn the world and the void. However, it could do nothing to this big net. What should we do? The extreme devil spider and the dragon head demon were no longer calm. Although they were fine for the time being, if this continued, they would be refined to death by Ancestor Dustless sooner or later. What else can we do? Could it be that Master will just watch us die? After the dragon head devil panicked for a while, he gradually calmed down. Although old Ancestor Dustless was formidable, he might not be their master's match either. No one knew Gu Fei's strength better than the great Yin demon spider and the dragon head demon. That's the only way. The great Yin demon spider agreed. He also believed that Gu Fei wouldn't just watch them be killed. One had to know that if they were killed, Gu Fei wouldn't look good either. The 2 demons then sat cross-legged in the void and joined forces to fight against the mighty heavenly fire. For a moment, the heavenly fire that erupted from the big net couldn't do anything to them. What? When Ancestor Wu Chun saw that his divine net couldn't refine the 2 devils in it for a while, he couldn't help but be a little surprised. He kept circulating his mystic technique, and the power of the divine net kept increasing. Rumble. The void that was enveloped by the divine net started to boil, and a terrifying destructive power erupted. It was as if a furnace had appeared between heaven and earth, and the 2 devils in the net seemed to be in the furnace, turning heaven and earth into a furnace. This kind of technique was a little shocking. At this time, Ancestor Wu Chun sat cross-legged in the sky above the divine net. His whole body emitted endless divine light, and the power of the extreme Tao level erupted from his body. He wanted to refine the 2 devils in the net as soon as possible, and then deal with that formidable opponent. Even a person like Ancestor Wu Chun didn't dare to underestimate Gu Fei. He sensed a dangerous aura from Gu Fei's body, and this was something that hadn't happened for many years. In this way, The great demon spider and the dragon head demon, who were trapped in the net, were in a tragedy. The power of the divine fire that erupted from the divine net suddenly increased by several times, and the void that was enveloped by the divine net turned into nothingness. The great demon spider and the dragon head demon were in a world of fire, and their protective demonic light was constantly weakened by the divine fire. It seemed that they couldn't hold on any longer. All right, don't go too far in everything. Stop. At this time, a voice sounded in the void. Gu Fei finally spoke. If he still didn't show up, the great demon spider and the dragon head demon would really die. Do you think I'll stop just because you tell me to? Who do you think you are? Ancestor Wu Chan said with a cold smile. Who do I am? You'll know in a while. Gu Fei said indifferently. Very well, then you come in too. Ancestor Wu Chan said coldly. Then, he separated his hands, and the divine net immediately revealed an entrance. A heaven-devouring power instantly enveloped Gu Fei and pulled him into the big net. If words don't work, then let's do it. Gu Fei took out a divine sword of the extreme Tao from his body unhurriedly. He didn't think much and directly slashed at the big formation in front of him. The divine sword of the extreme Tao was the divine sword of the extreme Tao after all. A sword light suddenly appeared in the void, and then directly slashed at the big net in front of him as fast as lightning. Swoosh! The sword light flashed by, and the big net was instantly slashed into two halves. Two figures directly rushed out of the big net. What? When Ancestor Wu Qin saw this scene, he couldn't help but be shocked. The other party finally made a move, but the other party actually used the divine sword of the extreme Tao. To him, this was definitely not a good thing. He directly dodged, and only saw that the sword light fell. Wherever the sword light passed, it actually left a pitch-black space crack in the void. A terrifying wave of sword chi appeared between heaven and earth, and the surrounding temperature dropped rapidly. The divine net that the great demon spider and the dragon head demon couldn't break was actually broken by Gu Fei with one sword. It was simple and direct, and of course, the power was also the greatest. When one's cultivation reached the realm that Gu Fei's cultivation had reached, he already disdained to use those complicated magical powers and combat skills. Often, the power of the most simple attack was much stronger than any combat skills or magical powers. You're that Gu Fei who annihilated the Golden Crow clan in the East Continent? Ancestor Wu Chan stared at Gu Fei and said coldly. Fortunately, he dodged quickly. Otherwise, he was afraid that he would also be slashed into two halves by that sword of Gu Fei's. When Gu Fei heard Ancestor Wu Qin's words, he was a little surprised. Isn't this guy an expert in the West Continent? Could it be that my prestige has already spread to the West Continent? Leave behind the things on you, and then get out of here. Ancestor Wu Chan stared at Gu Fei and said coldly, Who do you think you are? You want my things with just a few words? Chapter 3480. Gu Fei finally made a move because he had no choice but to do so. If he didn't, the Supreme Demon Spider and the Dragon Head Demon would be refined by the West Continent's expert, Ancestor Wu Chan, and both their bodies and souls would be destroyed. To a cultivator, this kind of death was lamentable. Rumble. The aura on Gu Fei's body kept rising. The void around him actually emitted waves of wind and thunder. The momentum was shocking, as if this part of the world could no longer contain his powerful martial body. And opposite Gu Fei, Ancestor Wu Chun also emitted an extremely powerful aura. His aura was not inferior to Gu Fei's at all. Seeing this scene, the Supreme Demon Spider and the Dragon Head Demon, who had just escaped from death, could not help but be shocked. This Ancestor Wu Chun was actually powerful to the extent that he could contend with their master. It seemed that their defeat was not unjust. Old Ancestor Dustless background was not insignificant. He became famous in the era of the Great War of Gods and Devils. He had once killed quite a number of fiend race powerhouses. He even extracted the spine of a fiend race powerhouse and refined it into a black bone magic staff. And the era of the Great War of Gods and Demons had already passed countless years ago. Ancestor Wu Chun had not been idle during this incomparably long period of time. Instead, he had been cultivating hard. The current old ancestor Dustless was seriously hard to imagine just how powerful he was. The confrontation between the two great experts alarmed countless experts. The vast and mighty aura could be clearly felt even from 1,000,000 miles away. Roar! A roar came from the depths of the graveyard of the gods. A terrifying murderous aura spread out from the depths of the graveyard of the gods, but the living creatures inside did not make a move. The void around Gu Fei and Ancestor Wu Chun became very unstable. The void between the two of them constantly broke into pitch-black spatial cracks. The two great experts had not really made a move, but they had already created such a shocking phenomenon. This made everyone inexplicably shocked. Perhaps we do not have to become enemies, Ancestor Wu Chun said. This black-clothed youth's cultivation and combat power had exceeded his expectations. It seemed to be a very unwise action to be enemies with such an existence. Really? Just now, you seem to have almost killed my two servants. What do you mean by that? Gu Fei said with a smile. Everyone has the right to punish demons, old ancestor Wu Chun said in an incomparably serious manner. This was a major issue of right and wrong. His standpoint was very clear. The celestial race and the demons were mortal enemies. Then it's impossible for us to be friends. If we're not friends, then we can only be enemies. Gu Fei said indifferently. His face had always been very calm. There was no joy or sorrow. No one knew what he was thinking. Then let's fight. Ancestor Dustless did not waste any more words. He wielded the black bone magic staff and struck out at Gu Fei. A powerful demonic force erupted from the black bone magic staff. Roar! A dragon's roar rang out, and the black bone magic staff in Ancestor Wu Chun's hand actually turned into a demonic dragon, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws as it pounced towards Gu Fei. Gu Fei sneered and took a step forward, instantly disappearing into the void. The next moment, when he reappeared, he stepped on the dragon's head. Boom! With a loud bang, the head of the black bone magic staff that had transformed into the black bone magic dragon exploded, turning into a cloud of black blood mist. Then, it dissipated in the void, and a bloody smell pervaded the air. Seeing this, old ancestor Wu Chun could not help but be shocked. This guy was much stronger than he had imagined. Dance of the Dragons! Gu Fei roared angrily. Endless chaotic primordial energy erupted from his body, turning into countless dragon shadows, and pounced towards old ancestor Wu Chun in an overwhelming manner. This scene was incomparably shocking. It was as if countless divine dragons had really appeared between heaven and earth, and the chaotic primordial energy rippled in all directions. This Gu Fei really lives up to his reputation. When someone saw this scene, he could not help but be shocked. The news of Gu Fei annihilating the Golden Crow clan in the East Continent had already spread. To the experts of the older generation in the ancestral god realm, the name Gu Fei was not unfamiliar. Roar! Old ancestor Wu Chun roared angrily. Tyrannical divine Wei energy surged from his body, and a golden light shield immediately appeared in front of him. On the light shield, divine patterns interweaved, emitting astonishing divine Wei energy ripples. Everyone watched this scene anxiously. Boom! In the next moment, the countless dragon shadows instantly collided with the light shield in front of old ancestor Wu Chun. The light shield shook violently, and then it collapsed, turning into specks of golden light, and dissipated in the void. Old ancestor Wu Chun only felt a force so strong that it was difficult to resist collided, and directly knocked him away. How is this possible? Old ancestor Wu Chun did not dare to believe that he could not even withstand one move from the other party, and was directly sent flying by the other party. Could it be that this guy was actually an extreme supreme martial artist? At this time, the experts of the ancestral god realm who were watching this battle from afar were also dumbfounded. Old ancestor Wu Chun's name was absolutely resounding among the experts of the older generation. However, such an unparalleled expert who had participated in the Great War of Gods and Demons back then was actually defeated so directly. Everyone did not dare to believe their own eyes. Master, the supreme demon spider and the dragon head demon were even more stunned. This guy, old ancestor Wu Chun, was actually unable to withstand a single blow in front of their master? This kind of disparity was really too huge. Even Gu Fei was shocked by the power displayed by this attack of his. Ever since the chaotic energy in his body had transformed into primordial chaotic energy, his martial body seemed to have also transformed and become even stronger. At this time, old ancestor Wu Qin only stopped after flying more than 10,000 feet away, and a trickle of blood seeped out from the corner of his mouth. He was incomparably shocked. This black-robed youth's power was too strong, and it was unbelievable. This kind of power seemed to only appear on the body of an extreme supreme martial artist. However, old ancestor Wu Chun was very sure that this black-robed youth named Gu Fei was definitely not an extreme supreme martial artist. If the other party was an extreme supreme martial artist, there was no need to fight this battle at all. At this time, old ancestor Wu Chun lowered his head and saw that the head of the black bone devil staff in his hand had already disappeared. It was very obvious that it had been trampled by the other party just now. What a strong physical body, comparable to a supreme divine body. The way old ancestor Wu Chen looked at Gu Fei had changed. Do you still want to fight? Gu Fei looked at old ancestor Wu Chun and said with a smile. Old ancestor Wu Chun was furious. This guy actually dared to underestimate him? He was just about to make a move again, but at this time, a huge black shadow appeared in the sky out of nowhere, and two huge eyes were staring at them. What? Chapter 3481. Boundless deathly aura descended from the sky, and the entire world suddenly darkened as if all light had been eroded by darkness. In the sky above a graveyard in the graveyard of the gods, an incomparably huge black shadow actually appeared. This black shadow was looking down at Gu Fei and Ancestor Wu Chun. Gu Fei and Ancestor Wu Chun were both shocked. At this moment, they only knew that an incomparably powerful existence had already targeted them. The black shadow in the sky appeared soundlessly, but now, above the black shadow, there was an eruption of deathly aura that made even Gu Fei's heart palpitate. Fight! Why aren't you fighting anymore? At this moment, a voice rang directly in the hearts of Gu Fei and Ancestor Wu Chun. Ancestor Wu Chun sneered and directly soared into the sky. He smashed his crutch towards the demonic shadow in the sky, and the powerful wave of power immediately dispersed the demonic shadow in the sky. A figure walked out from the dissipating demonic aura. When everyone saw this figure, they were shocked. This guy was actually an extremely ferocious corpse demon. The corpse demon was more than 10 meters tall. On its huge head, the left side was white bones, while the right side was half a face. The eyes, ears, mouth, and nose were all half. Even the body of the corpse demon was the same. The left side was white bones, while the right side was flesh and blood, just like a normal person. On the other side of the white bones, the bone body was crystal clear like divine jade. It was actually a peerless divine bone, while the flesh and blood half was filled with deathly aura, containing endless deathly aura. Seeing such a strange scene, anyone would be moved. It's been a long time since I've encountered such top-grade blood food. Seems like today's luck is not bad. A wave of divine consciousness spread from the body of the terrifying corpse demon, and a voice rang in everyone's heart. This corpse demon actually targeted Gu Fei and Ancestor Wu Chun, and treated them as blood food. This made everyone inexplicably shocked. Haha, it's also been a long time since I've met a guy who's qualified to be my opponent. I didn't expect to meet two today. Gu Fei laughed and said. His long hair fluttered even though there was no wind, and an extremely powerful battle intent spread from his body. He was not afraid of this demon. The demonic corpse in the sky made his move. He extended his hand, and the boundless power of death immediately condensed into a gigantic hand of death, grabbing at Gu Fei and Ancestor Wu Chun. What? The experts of the ancestral god realm who were watching the battle from afar were dumbfounded when they saw the corpse devil attacking the two super experts at the same time. You have guts. Gu Fei cursed. In the next moment, a dazzling sword light rushed out of his hand and slashed at the corpse demon with lightning speed. Swoosh! Wherever the sword light passed, the The corpse demon was cut down from head to toe by Gu Fei. He died just like that? No way. Not only was Gu Fei dumbfounded, but everyone else was also dumbfounded. However, in the next moment, the demonic corpse that was split in half by Gu Fei had completely recovered and reconstructed its demonic body. Want to kill me? You don't have the qualifications. The demonic corpse sneered. Oomph. Is that so? Gu Fei smiled. Although this fellow was strong, he was not invincible. The power of the sword, just now, did not seem to hurt the demonic corpse at all. However, it was still the sword light that erupted from the divine sword of Extreme Wei. Even a true supreme martial artist had to retreat, let alone this demonic corpse. Kill! Ancestor Wu Chen roared. His long hair danced in the wind, and he directly evolved countless divine lights. The divine lights intertwined, and a heavenly sword immediately appeared in his hand. Swoosh! Without any hesitation, Ancestor Wu Chen attacked with all his strength. The ultimate power of the divine way erupted from his body, and rays of divine lights rushed out like peerless divine reeds that could pierce through everything. Bam! The demonic corpse did not say anything. He came up with a punch, and the violent power of death immediately erupted from his fist, heading towards Gu Fei. Gu Fei's expression did not change. He switched the sword to his left hand, and his right palm immediately met the incoming fist. Boom! Gu Fei's palm and the demonic corpse's fist collided instantly, and a thunderous sound erupted. The void trembled, and it was extremely shocking. Two powerful forces collided, forming a terrifying destructive force that swept out in all directions. Wherever it passed, everything was obliterated and shattered. Gu Fei separated from the demonic corpse. He looked down and saw that there was a burn mark on his palm, and a powerful aura of death erupted from his palm. Gu Fei was taken aback. He did not expect the opponent's power of death to be able to invade his arm. Very soon, the skin of his right hand had already turned into a dead gray. What? Old Ancestor Wu Chen saw this scene, and he was really shocked. One should know that if this demonic corpse could deal with Gu Fei, it meant that this demonic corpse could also deal with him. At this time, Gu Fei operated the mystic art in his body with all his might, and traces of death aura could be seen constantly seeping out from the skin of his right hand. Very soon, the power of death that had invaded his palm was finally forced out by him. Two super experts had to join forces to resist the demonic corpse's attack, and this made Gu Fei very depressed. The original enemy, at this time, had no choice but to join forces to deal with the thing outside. The three figures moved rapidly in the void, and the terrifying power rippled in all directions. The whole heaven and earth were broken, as if the world was going to be destroyed. Seeing this scene, everyone could not believe their eyes. The demonic corpse was actually so powerful, and it was really unbelievable. Rumble. The heaven and earth were shaking. Even if Gu Fei and Old Ancestor Wu Chen joined forces, the situation was not optimistic, especially Old Ancestor Wu Chen, who was constantly being attacked by the demonic corpse, but he kept rushing back. And the combat power that Gu Fei displayed shocked Old Ancestor Wu Chen. This guy actually hid his true strength just now, and did not use his full strength. Old Ancestor Wu Chen kept coughing up blood. In the face of such an existence, if it was not for Gu Fei, he was afraid that he would have been beaten to death by this demonic corpse. Gu Fei blocked 70% of the demonic corpse's attack, and Old Ancestor Wu Chen only withstood 30% of the attack. Kill! Gu Fei roared, and directly used the ultimate divine sword. A sword light rushed out, and one of the demonic corpse's arms flew up and was chopped off by him. The power of the ultimate divine sword was not what the demonic corpse could imagine. Even super experts with the ultimate Tao constitution, when faced with the power of the ultimate divine sword, no one was absolutely safe. However, in the blink of an eye, the demonic corpse's body grew another arm, as if it had never been injured. Boom! The demonic corpse went crazy, and a mass of demonic light emerged from his body, instantly enveloping Gu Fei, wanting to refine Gu Fei. However, the demonic corpse did not succeed. Although that mass of demonic light was powerful, it still could not do anything to Gu Fei. However, It was a tragedy for old ancestor Wu Chan. That mass of demonic light that spread from the demonic corpse was corroding his protective light shield, and very soon, the protective light shield was completely obliterated by the power of the demonic path. Old ancestor Wu Chan was shocked and angry. At this time, his whole body was in flames, burning his skin and flesh, and he was in extreme pain. Go to hell. Gu Fei did not hold back anymore. With a roar, a bright sword light rushed out from his body and instantly penetrated his body. The next moment, a head flew up and then exploded in the void, turning into a mass of blood mist. Humph, you're still not dead yet. Gu Fei extended his hand, and the sword light that rushed out from his body immediately flew back to him, and he caught it in his hand. Then, the chaotic primordial power erupted from his body, dispersing the monstrous fire. Old ancestor Wu Chan escaped the disaster because of this. Can't even withstand a single blow. Gu Fei muttered to himself, "Is this the end?" All the experts who saw this scene breathed a sigh of relief. However, something unexpected happened. They saw that the demonic corpse that Gu Fei had slashed with the purple gold divine sword did not fall, and was still standing there. Gu Fei was very surprised to see that the headless demonic corpse was still approaching Gu Fei, and not even a drop of blood could be seen on its neck. At the same time, the head that Gu Fei had slashed away flew back, and then landed on its neck. The next moment, the demonic corpse reattached its head, and an extremely tyrannical aura spread from the demonic corpse's body. This works too? Gu Fei saw this scene, and his expression became solemn. It seemed that this demonic corpse cultivator had some kind of secret technique, otherwise it would not be like this. The demonic corpse did not say anything, and continued to attack Gu Fei and old ancestor Wu Chan. Boom! Old ancestor Wu Chan was hit by the demonic corpse's fist, and the violent and powerful fist force instantly crushed old ancestor Wu Chin's divine body, turning it into a mass of blood mist. A figure wrapped in a divine light rushed into the sky, and it was old ancestor Wu Chin's primordial spirit. Although the divine body had been blasted into a mass of blood mist, as long as the primordial spirit was fine, the divine body could be reconstructed, and the cultivation could be restored to its peak. If the primordial spirit was blasted into pieces, even a deity would not be able to save it. And Gu Fei's ultimate martial body had been blasted by the demonic corpse several times, and some cracks appeared on his body. The demonic corpse's strength still exceeded Gu Fei's expectations. He had not encountered such a strong opponent for a long time, and the battle intent that emanated from his body was even stronger. The demonic corpse was not in good shape either, and it had also been hit by Gu Fei's palm and kick, but the demonic corpse did not feel any pain at all, and the half of its body was covered with cracks. The half of its body that had flesh and blood was like a broken sack, and blood kept oozing out, dyeing its clothes red. Chapter 3482. Gu Fei was fighting with ancestor Wu Chan, but a corpse demon suddenly jumped out. This corpse demon was terrifyingly powerful, and its combat power was shocking. Even though Gu Fei and ancestor Wu Chan joined forces, they were still suppressed by this corpse demon for a while, which made Gu Fei shocked. What a powerful demon! The Supreme Demon Spider and the Dragon Head Demon, who were watching the battle from afar, were extremely shocked. If they could obtain the demonic source of the corpse demon, then their cultivation would definitely go to a higher level. However, the demonic source of the corpse demon was not so easy to obtain. Master, if you can defeat this corpse demon, the Supreme Demon Spider and the Dragon Head Demon both had a kind of hope, and they were very excited. Clang! The immortal sword light that rushed out of Gu Fei's hand directly chopped the left bone of the corpse demon, and there was a sound of metal colliding. Although the corpse demon was sent flying by Gu Fei's sword, it did not seem to be injured at all. Its bone body could actually withstand a blow from the divine sword of extreme Tao. Gu Fei was taken aback. It seemed like this Mo's body was really the strongest extreme Tao divine body left behind by an extreme Tao sovereign after his death. Only the extreme Tao divine body could withstand the attack of an extreme Tao artifact. The left side of the corpse demon's body was a bone body without a trace of flesh and blood. Every bone was emitting a powerful divine light, but the death essence condensed on the right side of the body was even more powerful. At this time, the corpse demon was in a mysterious state. Divinity and demonic nature coexisted in his body at the same time. Although the demonic nature was showing signs of overwhelming the divinity was not to be outdone and firmly defended half of the body. Roar! The demonic nature on the right side of the corpse demon suddenly burst out, and a ferocious demonic shadow immediately rushed out from the demonic half of his body, pouncing towards Gu Fei at an extremely fast speed. Oomph! Gu Fei sneered, and a purple divine light immediately emerged from between his eyebrows. A purple figure directly rushed out from between his eyebrows and turned into an immortal sword light, instantly piercing through the demonic shadow that was pouncing towards him. The demonic shadow immediately dissipated in the void. What? That corpse devil couldn't help being startled when he saw this scene. The devil shadow was slain, and he received a tremendous impact. In a moment of carelessness, Ancestor Dustless actually slapped a palm on his back. Boom! Thunderclaps shook the heavens. Endless divine thunder actually gushed out of the palm that Elder Wuchen had used to strike the corpse demon's back. A large number of thunderballs instantly drowned the corpse demon. Every ball of thunder was even more dazzling and resplendent than a real divine sun. Seeing this scene, the spectators in the distance were all stunned. Ancestor Dustless actually cultivated the great way of heavenly thunder. At this time, he finally used his trump card. At this time, Ancestor Dustless seemed to have transformed into a world-destroying thunder god. His entire body radiated with glaring electric light, and a terrifying destructive aura spread out in all directions. Everyone felt their hearts palpitating. This guy has really hidden himself well. Seeing this, Gu Fei was also shocked. When this old guy put his life on the line, it really wasn't a joke. The vast and mighty power of thunder and lightning also affected Gu Fei, but the primordial chaos divine light that gushed out of Gu Fei's body directly blocked the power of thunder and lightning outside his body. Of course, this was just the power of thunder and lightning that leaked out, so its power was naturally much weaker. And at the center of the explosion of the power of thunder and lightning, the power of thunder and lightning was absolutely incomparably terrifying. The entire void of heaven and earth was directly annihilated by the power of thunder and lightning. Bolts of lightning suddenly appeared in the void, instantly shattering heaven and earth, leaving behind streaks of lightning-shaped black spatial cracks. However, these spatial cracks only appeared for a very short time and disappeared without a trace in just a breath's time. This was because the void of heaven and earth where the graveyard of the gods was located was incomparably stable. The void that was torn apart by the thunder and lightning was directly repaired by the power of heaven and earth in the blink of an eye. The reason why the graveyard of the gods had always existed in the ancestral god realm, and no one could destroy it, was not without reason. Roar! Just as everyone was in shock, an angry roar rang out, and in the next moment, a terrifying power of the divine way erupted from the endless thunder and lightning. Rumble! Heaven and earth were collapsing and being annihilated, and even the stars in the sky looked terrifying as if they were about to fall. This power of the divine way directly shook the heaven and earth. In the next moment, the endless thunder and lightning balls actually directly scattered by the explosion of the power of the divine way and turned into the most primitive essence of the divine way. Then, the essence of the divine way actually gathered toward a figure in a frenzy and was instantly devoured completely. What? When everyone saw that figure clearly, they were directly stunned. They saw that a crystalline bone hand had actually pierced through Patriarch Wuchen's chest and came out from his back. The owner of this bone hand was that corpse demon. How is this possible? Those experts of the divine race's older generation who recognized Patriarch Wuchen looked at this scene in disbelief. Patriarch Wuchen's divine body was actually pierced through by this corpse demon. And under everyone's careful look, they discovered that the black demon bone staff in Patriarch Wuchen's hand was actually stabbed into the right side of the corpse demon's body. The right side of the corpse demon's body was that half-divine body with flesh and blood. The black demon bone staff in Patriarch Wuchen's hand was almost completely stabbed into the corpse demon's body, and only a small section was exposed. Both sides are injured? When Gu Fei saw this scene, his pupils involuntarily contracted. This Patriarch Wuchen was indeed ruthless enough. I'll send you on your way. Patriarch Wuchen roared angrily, and countless cracks immediately appeared on the black demon bone staff that was stabbed into the right side of the corpse demon's body. In the next moment, with a boom, a terrifying power of destruction instantly erupted. The right side of the corpse demon's body was directly blown into smithereens. The left half of the bone body was directly blown away. The power of destruction that erupted also directly sent Patriarch Wuchen flying, drops of divine blood sprinkling down in the air. The entire heaven and earth void was collapsing and being annihilated. That destructive power released by Patriarch Wuchen's black demon bone staff self-destruction was seriously too powerful. An incomparably huge black hole appeared between heaven and earth. Everything around the black hole was devoured cleanly, horrifying to the extreme. Everyone retreated into the distance in horror one after another. Haha, good, very good. When Gu Fei saw the situation, he was immediately delighted. This was truly the case of the crane and the clam fighting, and the fisherman reaps the benefits. The current hymn was the fisherman reaping the benefits. This time, even heaven was helping him, letting him get rid of two super big troubles in one go. Rushing in recklessly would be very dangerous. At this time, there were many people who had the same thoughts as Gu Fei. They all wanted to rush into the depths of the graveyard of the gods to see what was going on. Whether the myriad god ancestral sword was really in the depths of the graveyard of the gods, this was something that no one knew. Suddenly, a scream came from nearby. Gu Fei's speed immediately slowed down. Then, sweat appeared on his forehead. Walking in the depths of the graveyard of the gods, one could lose their life at any time. Swoosh! Just at this moment, yet another figure disappeared into the void, disappearing without a trace at an extremely fast speed. The great demon spider and the dragon head demon were startled at the sight of this. In this way, they would have to follow closely behind Gu Fei. Naturally, Gu Fei did not dare to be negligent. A powerful wave of will immediately spread from his body, instantly covering the surrounding void for thousands of feet around him. With Gu Fei as the center, he could instantly sense even the slightest movement within a radius of 1,000 feet. This way, if Gu Fei used his will to investigate the surrounding situation, he would be able to know the dangers of his surroundings in advance and then avoid them. However, not everyone was so lucky. There were constantly people who triggered restrictive spells and were immediately destroyed. Some people did not even leave behind a corpse, vanishing into thin air just like that. The air was filled with the faint smell of blood. That is. Chapter 3484. Gu Fei arrived at the depths of the graveyard of the gods and saw a gigantic chaos ball in front of him. Within the chaos ball, there was a world vaguely visible. What caused him to be alarmed was that the world within the primal chaos sphere actually resembled the ancestral god realm. In the boundless starry sky, there were 5 continents floating in the air. Each continent was incomparably huge, as though they were 5 independent worlds. Could this be? It was impossible for Gu Fei not to be shocked. Could the gigantic chaos ball in front of him be the ancestral god realm's world source? Otherwise, how could there be such a shocking phenomenon within the chaos ball? The divining demon spider and the dragon head demon behind Gu Fei were also dumbfounded when they saw this scene. With their cultivation and knowledge, they naturally knew what it was. However, even the divining demon spider and the dragon head demon had only heard of this thing and had never seen it with their own eyes. The world source of a world had always been a legendary thing. Even extreme supreme-level existences might not be able to see such a thing. Just as Gu Fei was in shock, the gigantic chaos ball in front of him underwent another shocking change. The world that had evolved within the chaos ball gradually disappeared and was replaced by a sword. It was a seemingly ordinary but rusty sword. The legendary ancestral sword of gods? Someone exclaimed. Gu Fei and the other two were not the only experts who had made it here. Although no one had died along the way, there were still many experts who had made it here. I didn't expect so many people to come. At this moment, a voice suddenly sounded from the chaos ball in front of them. As the voice rang out, the entire chaos ball suddenly surged with a torrential chaotic aura. At the same time, a hand reached out from the side and grabbed the inconspicuous rusty sword within the chaos ball. A burst of supreme power of the divine Tao immediately surged out from within the chaotic ball. In the next instant, the chaotic ball that was countless times larger than a mountain began to shrink at a rapid rate. In the end, the boundless chaotic energy was completely devoured by the long sword in the hand. However, to everyone's astonishment, the rusty sword did not change at all after devouring the endless amount of chaotic aura. When Gu Fei saw the person holding the sword, he was shocked to the extreme. He didn't expect it to be this person. Li Lingfeng. Gu Fei stared at the figure and said the name with difficulty. He couldn't remember how long it had been since he last said that name. Little junior brother, how have you been? At this moment, Li Lingfeng's gaze suddenly shifted towards Gu Fei. Then, he suddenly smiled and said such words. Is it really you? Gu Fei's voice trembled. At this moment, even he did not know what he was feeling. Those experts from the ancestral god realm who had been killed by him all had a common characteristic. Their divine essence had been completely devoured by the sword in his hand, and their corpses had also turned into dust. Just like that, their bodies and souls had been completely destroyed. Everyone, let's attack together and kill him. Someone roared angrily. Then, the figures of more than 10 incomparably powerful experts from the god race rushed over from afar and surrounded Li Lingfeng. Unimaginably powerful energy was rapidly gathering, and the sword in Li Lingfeng's hand actually vibrated and let out a low vibrating sound, as if it was very happy. An extreme divine weapon of the Great Path? Gu Fei stared at the seemingly heavily rusted longsword in Li Lingfeng's hand. Is this unremarkable broken sword actually a pinnacle path sword? Because only an extreme divine weapon had an artifact soul, which was also the god within the extreme divine weapon. Kill! Li Lingfeng roared angrily and directly attacked the gods with his sword. An astonishing murderous aura erupted from his body, causing people's hearts to palpitate. At this moment, Li Lingfeng seemed to have transformed into a terrifying god of death. When he raised his sword, no one could actually block his sword. As long as the experts of the god race were struck by the rusty sword in his hand, they were instantly turned into dust. Their bodies and souls were directly destroyed, and their divine essence was completely devoured by the rusty sword. Seeing this scene, Gu Fei couldn't help but frown. What was Li Lingfeng doing? He actually launched a one-sided massacre against the gods. Just as Li Lingfeng was wantonly killing the experts from the ancestral god realm, a sneer came from the distant sky. Then, a figure appeared in the distant sky. The figure only took a step and instantly arrived in front of Li Lingfeng. Then, he directly stretched out his hand and directly grabbed at Li Lingfeng. Li Lingfeng only felt that the other party's palm was infinitely enlarging in front of his eyes. Swish! Li Lingfeng directly waved the rusty sword in his hand. A sword shadow rushed out of his hand and slashed at the grabbing hand. The rusty sword in Li Lingfeng's hand actually slashed through the huge hand, splitting it in half. The momentum did not stop, and it continued to slash at the expert of the god race who suddenly appeared. The divine essence that condensed into the huge hand was directly devoured by the rusty sword. The expert of the god race was shocked. He hurriedly flipped over and dodged the attack. Gu Fei looked over and saw that the person who stopped Li Lingfeng from killing the other experts of the god race was actually a young man in green. This young man was staring at the rusty sword in Li Lingfeng's hand in shock. Myriad God Ancestral Sword? The man in green looked at Li Lingfeng suspiciously, hoping to get an answer. However, Li Lingfeng only smiled and said nothing. The rusty sword in his hand continued to devour all the essence around him, be it divine essence or demonic essence. This is a ferocious sword, Gu Fei said. It was obvious that Li Lingfeng was killing the experts of the god race to feed the ferocious sword in his hand. However, It did not seem to be an easy task to do so. This is not the myriad god ancestral sword. At this moment, an old voice rang out. Then, a white-robed old man holding a walking stick walked over step by step from the distance. East Continent, East Pole Forefather? Some experts of the ancestral god realm recognized this old man. What? He's the East Pole Forefather? Someone exclaimed. The East Pole Forefather was definitely one of the most powerful beings in the East Continent. He was a true antique, and like Forefather Wuchen, he had survived the Great War of Gods and Demons. Greetings, Senior. Senior, do you think the sword in this guy's hand is the legendary myriad god ancestral sword? The man in green hurriedly bowed to the East Pole Forefather and asked. Gu Fei was also very curious. This is the myriad demon ferocious sword, not the legendary divine sword. The East Pole Forefather approached in the blink of an eye. He stared at the rusty sword in Li Lingfeng's hand, and a bright light flashed in the depths of his murky eyes. The myriad demon ferocious sword? Gu Fei was stunned when he heard the East Pole Forefather's words. He did not sense any demonic aura from the rusty sword in Li Lingfeng's hand at all. How is this possible? Such a terrifying demonic weapon did not leak any demonic aura. This could only mean that this demonic weapon was extraordinary. You've fallen into the demonic path, the East Pole Forefather said to Li Lingfeng. Chapter 3485. The East Pole ancestor became famous before the War of Gods and Demons. His cultivation was unimaginably strong, even stronger than Ancestor Wuchen of the West Continent. However, facing such a peerless figure, Li Lingfeng was still calm. The rusty long sword in his hand still did not emit any aura or power fluctuation. However, at this time, no one dared to underestimate the rusty iron sword in Li Lingfeng's hand. It was a ferocious sword that seemed to be able to devour the whole world. It was the first time for Gu Fei to see such a ferocious sword. It was even more ferocious than the Nine Heavens Black-Yellow Pagoda. With such a ferocious sword in hand, Li Lingfeng would be fearless even if he faced a group of god ancestors. Ominous demon sword. What is this? Gu Fei said. Master, this is a good thing. I didn't expect it to be in the ancestral god realm. The divining demon spider was surprised and happy. What's going on? Gu Fei asked. The ominous demon sword is a peerless, ferocious sword in the chaos demon realm. It has devoured the essence and blood of countless demons and has long transformed into a supreme demonic weapon. The dragon head demon explained. It turned out that the ominous demon sword had a great history in the chaos demon realm. Although it was not the number one demonic weapon in the chaos demon realm, it was not far from it. After all, this demonic weapon had devoured too much devil essence chi and bred a powerful demonic spirit. In addition to devouring devil essence chi, this demonic weapon could actually devour any kind of essence chi. The most terrifying thing was that the demonic spirit of this demonic weapon had the ability to affect people's minds. Anyone who had obtained this demonic weapon did not seem to have a good ending. Gu Fei could not help but worry about Li Lingfeng. If his will was not strong enough, the demonic spirit of the ominous demon sword would take advantage of him, and that would be terrible. If Li Lingfeng could control this ferocious sword, it would be fine. If he could not, he would be controlled by the demonic spirit of the demonic sword and become a sword manipulator. At that moment, the great ancestor of the East Pole Great Ancestor and Li Lingfeng were in a standoff. Two extremely powerful auras kept clashing against each other. The space between them kept shaking, and pitch-black spatial cracks would appear from time to time. Rumble. The power of the divine Tao erupted, and the projection of a strange beast suddenly appeared on the East Pole Patriarch's body. This was a mythological beast with the head of a dragon, the body of a turtle, and the tail of a qilin. Dragon turtle? When Gu Fei saw this scene, he was a little surprised. He did not expect to see the old turtle's relative in the ancestral god realm. The East Pole Old Ancestor's true form was actually a dragon turtle. The aura of a true dragon immediately erupted from the East Pole Great Ancestor's body, and the dragon turtle phantom that emerged from his body actually showed signs of materializing. On Li Lingfeng's body, the innate 8 trigrams divine art emerged. 8 trigrams circled around him, and 8 surges of celestial Tao power surged around him. Li Lingfeng had obtained the inheritance of the Kunlun ancestral god ancestor Fuxi in the Kunlun ancestral star. He had already cultivated the inheritance of the supreme god ancestor to the peak realm and condensed the innate 8 trigrams divine art. All these years, Li Lingfeng had been hiding in the ancestral god realm, but he had not been idling. He had been cultivating hard, thinking of ways to improve his cultivation and combat strength, and even resorting to unscrupulous means. And his cultivation and combat strength had really improved to a level that allowed him to compete with the quasi-supreme. This kind of improvement could be said to be lightning fast. With the ominous demon sword in his hand, Li Lingfeng was confident that he could compete with the East Pole Great Ancestor. The moment he held the ominous demon sword, Li Lingfeng felt that his whole body was filled with power. Haha, after killing you, my sword will transform and become even more powerful. Li Lingfeng pointed the sword at the East Pole Great Ancestor opposite him and laughed crazily. There was a vicious aura shrouding his eyebrows, which made him look somewhat ferocious. Seeing this, Gu Fei couldn't help but frown. Could it be that Li Lingfeng's mind had been unknowingly affected by the demonic nature of the ominous demon sword? The demonic nature could infinitely magnify a cultivator's inner demons, turning them into demons. The ominous demon sword had once slain 10,000 demons and devoured the essence of 10,000 demons. The demonic nature condensed by the demon sword was too powerful. This kind of demonic nature wasn't something that just anyone could resist. Is that so? Why don't you try and see if you can kill me? The East Pole Great Ancestor said calmly. He tightened his grip on his walking stick, and the vast aura emanating from his body became even stronger. The image of a dragon turtle seemed like it was about to rush out of the void. At this time, all the experts in the vicinity were nervously watching the 2 great experts who were in a standoff. Some people had already vaguely guessed that the so-called news of the appearance of the myriad god ancestral sword was probably a conspiracy. Someone wanted to lure the experts of the ancestral god realm into the graveyard of the gods. Kill. At this time, Li Lingfeng let out a furious roar and directly slashed at the East Pole Great Ancestor opposite him. A sword shadow flashed through the void at high speed, slashing down on the East Pole Great Ancestor's head. Roar. Just as the sword shadow was about to land on the East Pole Great Ancestor's head, the image of the dragon turtle that emerged from the East Pole Great Ancestor's body suddenly let out a furious roar. It instantly soared into the sky and collided with the falling sword shadow. Boom! With a loud bang, the power of the dragon turtle erupted and actually blocked the falling sword shadow. However, the image of the dragon turtle quickly dimmed. The essence that condensed the image of the dragon turtle was rapidly draining away, being devoured by the sword shadow. Oomph! The East Pole Great Ancestor snorted coldly. A turtle shell appeared on his body, and with a shake, the sword shadow immediately dissipated into the void from the explosion of power. Bam! In the next moment, the East Pole Great Ancestor's walking stick ruthlessly smashed into Li Lingfeng's waist, sending Li Lingfeng's attacking walking stick flying. The innate 8 trigrams divine pattern around Li Lingfeng was actually unable to block the walking stick in the East Pole Great Ancestor's hand. The innate 8 trigrams divine pattern was actually shattered. What? Gu Fei could not help but be shocked when he saw Li Lingfeng being sent flying by the East Pole Great Ancestor's walking stick. This East Pole Great Ancestor was actually this strong? The East Pole Great Ancestor's strength had exceeded Gu Fei's expectations. This Great Ancestor had actually sent Li Lingfeng flying with a single move. This kind of combat power was absolutely heaven-defying. This super-old antique's cultivation and combat power were not just a little bit stronger than Ancestor Wu Qin's. No matter what, this guy is a relative of the old turtle. His cultivation is not bad. Gu Fei nodded to himself. This guy had the unique aura of the Tai Huang clan. It seemed that he was a descendant of the Tai Huang clan's true dragon and the black turtle. The Tai Huang bloodline was no small matter. The Tai Huang bloodline in the East Pole Great Ancestor had naturally awakened long ago, and he had obtained a part of the Tai Huang's true inheritance. This was also why the East Pole Great Ancestor was stronger than Ancestor Wu Chun. Li Lingfeng was sent flying over 1,000 miles away. The moment he stabilized himself, he opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. His clothes were stained with blood, and the smell of blood immediately filled the air. Boom! As his divine power circulated, the divine diagram of the 8 trigrams appeared on Li Lingfeng's body once again. 8 trigrams combined, invincible. Li Lingfeng roared furiously. The 8 divine diagrams revolving around him immediately gathered together. The 8 types of divine power merged into one, forming an astonishing divine power. Rumble, under Li Lingfeng's control, the astonishing divine power blasted towards the East Pole Great Ancestor. A large area of the void was instantly shattered and destroyed by Li Lingfeng's attack. "You're not qualified to kill me." The East Pole Great Ancestor remained expressionless. He transferred the walking stick in his hand to his left hand, then unhurriedly reached out with his right hand and pressed forward. Endless true dragon power surged from his palm, and streaks of true dragon patterns intertwined, forming a huge seal in his palm. A terrifying wave of power erupted from the seal in his hand. Gu Fei could not help but be shocked the moment he saw the seal that the East Pole Great Ancestor had conjured, as it was the Tai Sovereign's seal, an extreme saint weapon refined by the Tai Sovereign. The East Pole Great Ancestor could actually conjure the Tai Sovereign's seal. Li Lingfeng was in trouble. Gu Fei was not optimistic about Li Lingfeng's chances. After all, Li Lingfeng was unable to unleash the power of the ominous sword of all demons in the face of absolute power. His defeat was already a foregone conclusion. Boom! The seal that the East Pole Great Ancestor had conjured clashed with the overwhelming power of destruction. At the very next moment, the power of destruction that had been condensed from the 8 trigrams was directly dispersed by the seal. What? Li Lingfeng's shock was no small matter. The next moment, the power of the seal erupted. Li Lingfeng felt as if he had been slammed by a primordial divine mountain, and he was sent flying again. Even the ominous sword of all demons in his hand was almost knocked out of his grasp. Li Lingfeng gripped the ominous sword of all demons tightly. He gritted his teeth, and while he was still sent flying, he spat a mouthful of essence blood onto the ominous sword of all demons. A layer of demonic light immediately surged from the rusty sword. Afterwards, a demonic seal rushed out from the demonic sword and branded itself on Li Lingfeng's forehead. At the very next moment, Li Lingfeng's pupils instantly turned blood red. His expression became vicious, and a bloodthirsty light flickered in his blood-red pupils. He seemed to have been demonized in an instant. The pure essence of the divine way actually turned into demonic essence in the blink of an eye. It was as if he had become a peerless demon. What? Gu Fei was shocked when he saw the changes on Li Lingfeng's body. Has he gone mad? How could he allow the demonic spirit to control him? Doesn't he know that it's very likely that he'll lose his mind and become a puppet? At that moment, Li Lingfeng, who was being controlled by the demonic spirit of the demonic sword, erupted with the most powerful waves of demonic power. At that moment, the rusty demonic sword in his hand finally became somewhat different. The rust on the ominous sword of all demons began to fall off, revealing a pitch-black blade covered in rust. There were actually 9 primordial demonic patterns branded on the blade. Chapter 3486. Li Lingfeng had actually been demonized by the ominous sword of 10,000 demons. This was no small matter. It must be known that Gu Fei had used all sorts of methods to find his fellow disciples of the Taishan sect. However, it was only now that he had truly found Li Lingfeng, the eldest disciple of the Taishan sect. Zhao Ziru seemed to be in the heaven realm, but he could not find her anywhere. For Gu Fei, Li Lingfeng being demonized was absolutely not something that he could not allow. He still needed Li Lingfeng to rebuild the Taishan sect. If something happened to Li Lingfeng, then the rebuilding of the Taishan sect would become a bubble. Roar! At this time, Li Lingfeng roared and attacked. A black light rushed out of his hand, directly tearing the sky and earth apart, and strangled the great ancestor of the East Pole opposite him. The great ancestor of the East Pole displayed the supreme magic inherited from the Taihuang and evolved the Taihuang seal. The power of the Taihuang seal was frighteningly strong. Boom! The great ancestor of the East Pole pressed his right hand forward, and the Taihuang seal immediately rushed forward, colliding with the black light that was coming at him. However, this time, the black light directly split the Taihuang seal that the great ancestor of the East Pole had evolved in half, and the intertwined patterns that had evolved into the Taihuang seal dissipated. At the same time, the black light that split the Taihuang seal that the great ancestor of the East Pole had evolved in half also became extremely dim, as if it could dissipate into the void at any time. The black light continued to slash at the great ancestor of the East Pole. However, another Taihuang seal came and immediately exploded the black light that was slashing at him. The demonic patterns collapsed in the void. Buzz! The Taihuang seal made a loud sound, and the supreme power of a true dragon erupted from it. The entire world seemed to be horrifying, as if it was about to be shattered. Although this Taihuang seal was not the real Taihuang seal that the old turtle had, the power it displayed made even Gu Fei a little surprised. The bloodline of the Taihuang was indeed abnormal, but the great ancestor of the East Pole was also very powerful. It should be known that the dragon had 9 sons, and there were actually many descendants of the Taihuang who had the bloodline of the Taihuang. However, there were very few descendants of the Grand Emperor who could truly awaken the Grand Emperor's bloodline. Generally speaking, the second generation after the Grand Emperor's children, only had a 50% chance of awakening their bloodline. It should be noted that Old Tortoise and the others were the Grand Emperor's children. It was definitely not an easy task to obtain a powerful inheritance. In this world, there was absolutely no such thing as reaping without sowing. However, Old Turtle and his brothers were undoubtedly lucky because they had an invincible father. With Taihuang's help, wouldn't it be a piece of cake for them to awaken the Taihuang bloodline in their bodies? Rumble. At that moment, the world trembled. A gigantic seal that was even larger than a mountain appeared in the world, slamming down towards the demonized Li Lingfeng. The great master of the East Pole dared not underestimate his opponent. To be precise, his opponent was not Li Lingfeng. Instead, it was the sword in Li Lingfeng's hand. It was obvious that the great ancestor of the East Pole great ancestor knew the origins of this peerlessly vicious sword. Good timing. Li Lingfeng grinned ferociously. The demonic sword in his hand directly flew up. Sword light revolved, turning into a huge black hole that frantically devoured all the essence in the surroundings. Even the vast power of the Taihuang seal that the great master of the East Pole great ancestor conjured was continuously devoured by the black hole, causing the seal to become unstable. In the next moment, a wave of devouring demonic power surged out of the black hole. The entire void in front of the black hole instantly collapsed and was devoured by the black hole. Boom! The Taihuang seal that was larger than a mountain directly blocked the black hole. However, the supreme power that had evolved into the Taihuang seal was also frantically devoured by the black hole. The Taihuang seal that the great master of the East Pole great ancestor conjured gradually dimmed. The dragon-shaped Tao patterns gradually dissipated, and the power of the great path disappeared. It had to be said that the demonic sword in Li Lingfeng's hand was truly amazing. It could even shake the Taihuang seal that the great master of the East Pole great ancestor conjured, using the power of his bloodline. The two supreme powers collided. The Taihuang seal that the East Pole great ancestor conjured erupted with the power of the great path. However, the black hole that the demonic sword had transformed into also emitted the power of the great path. Everyone watched this scene with extreme shock. They were all extremely nervous, because if the East Pole great ancestor was defeated, they would probably all die. They would all become nourishment for the peerlessly vicious sword. Some of the experts from the ancestral god realm had already begun to retreat when they saw that the situation was not in their favor. These people had taken the risk to enter the graveyard of the gods for the myriad god ancestral sword, not to commit suicide. The demonic spirit of the myriad demon ancestral sword was terrifyingly powerful. If even the East Pole great ancestor was no match for it, then how could the others suppress this fellow? Even Gu Fei was somewhat surprised. Could the myriad demon ancestral sword really devour everything? The eyes of the great demon spider and the dragon head demon, who were standing behind Gu Fei, lit up when they saw this scene. The myriad demon ancestral sword was actually this powerful. If they could obtain such a demonic sword, wouldn't their battle prowess increase greatly? They might even be able to use the power of the myriad demon ancestral sword to dispel the restrictive magic that Gu Fei had placed on them. If they could dispel the restrictive magic that Gu Fei had placed on them, they would regain their freedom and would no longer have to be Gu Fei's servants. Gu Fei naturally did not know what the great demon spider and the dragon head demon were thinking. Actually, even if he knew, he would not be afraid. Even if these two fellows obtained the myriad demon ancestral sword, would they be able to break free from his control? At this moment, the grand sovereign seal that was blocking the black hole gradually became faint and illusory. Soon, the grand sovereign seal that the East Pole Great Ancestor had conjured disappeared. Naturally, the supreme power that formed the grand sovereign seal was also devoured. Buzz. After devouring this power, the black hole formed by the myriad demon ancestral sword trembled. An even more powerful wave of power surged out from the black hole. In the depths of the black hole, there seemed to be a demonic figure faintly discernible. At this moment, the East Pole Great Ancestor was enveloped by the devouring power that surged out from the black hole. His body flew towards the black hole involuntarily, and he was about to be devoured by the black hole. However, Gu Fei discovered that the East Pole Great Ancestor did not panic at all. He was still calm and composed, as if he was not afraid of being devoured by the black hole and becoming nutrients for the demonic sword. The myriad demon ancestral sword's demonic power was very shocking. It could transform even more powerful by devouring the essence of other living beings. It was a demonic weapon that could grow on its own. In fact, regardless of whether it was a demonic weapon or a divine weapon, as long as it reached the extreme Tao level, it would be able to grow on its own. Even if it was heavily injured, it would be able to repair itself. However, the myriad demon ancestral sword could already transform on its own before it became an extreme Tao demonic weapon. Just as the East Pole Great Ancestor was about to be devoured by the black hole, an item suddenly flew out from his body. When Gu Fei saw the item, he was shocked. He saw a palm-sized dragon scale enveloped by a mass of true dragon chi colliding with the black hole. In the next moment, the black hole formed by the myriad demon ancestral sword collapsed, and a demonic figure was sent flying. All the experts watching the battle nearby were stunned when they saw this scene. Li Lingfeng, who was originally extremely powerful, was actually sent flying by a small dragon scale. A small dragon scale was actually able to shatter the black hole and send Li Lingfeng flying. Even Gu Fei found it a little unbelievable when he saw this scene. Could it be? Gu Fei's face turned solemn as he looked at the dragon scale floating in the void. The East Pole Great Ancestor waved his hand and kept the dragon scale. He then took a step forward and instantly approached Li Lingfeng. He then smashed his walking stick at Li Lingfeng. Clang! The walking stick in the East Pole Great Ancestor's hand was blocked by the myriad demon ancestral sword that Li Lingfeng had raised. The power contained in the walking stick was completely devoured by the myriad demon ancestral sword. The East Pole Great Ancestor was shocked. It seemed that it would be very difficult for him to resist the terrifying devouring power of the myriad demon ancestral sword with his own strength. Li Lingfeng, who was under the control of the myriad demon ancestral sword's demonic spirit, became even more ferocious. He actually fiercely pounced at the East Pole Great Ancestor, completely disregarding his own safety. The East Pole Great Ancestor naturally would not be polite to Li Lingfeng. He only waved his hand and the dragon scale flew out again, directly hitting Li Lingfeng. Although it was a small dragon scale, it was able to resist the myriad demon ancestral sword. If Li Lingfeng was directly hit by the dragon scale, it went without saying that his body and soul would be instantly destroyed. However, Li Lingfeng, who was under the control of the demonic spirit, did not dodge. The myriad demon ancestral sword in his hand fiercely stabbed at the East Pole Great Ancestor's forehead. What? The East Pole Great Ancestor was shocked. Is this guy crazy? Although he could kill this guy, he would definitely be injured by the Myriad Demon Ancestral Sword. Although it would not be fatal, it would still greatly damage his vitality. At this juncture, the East Pole Great Ancestor definitely did not want his vitality to be greatly damaged. After all, chaos was about to descend. Preserving one's strength was the wisest move. The dragon scale that was flying at Li Lingfeng made a turn in the void and actually collided with the Myriad Demon Ancestral Sword that Li Lingfeng had thrust out. At the same time, the East Pole Great Ancestor instantly pulled away from Li Lingfeng. The East Pole Great Ancestor did not retract the dragon scale. Instead, the dragon scale turned into an incomparably dazzling blade light and slashed at Li Lingfeng. As long as Li Lingfeng was struck by the blade light formed by the dragon scale, it would be difficult for him to survive. However, the demonic spirit of the Myriad Demon Ancestral Sword did not want to see Li Lingfeng killed by the dragon scale. Therefore, it quickly retreated, instantly retreating 1,000 miles away. However, the dragon scale was moving too quickly. In an instant, it slashed at Li Lingfeng's neck, about to cut off his head. Li Lingfeng was shocked. He wanted to dodge, but it was already too late. However, at that moment, a hand suddenly reached out from the side and grabbed the dragon scale. What? Chapter 3487. The dragon scale that the Patriarch of the East Pole brought out was shockingly powerful. It could actually contend against the 10,000 demons' ancestral sword. This was something that Gu Fei had not expected. It was only a dragon scale the size of a palm, and there weren't any powerful energy waves erupting from it. However, it was an attack that couldn't be any simpler, and yet it was enough to make the demonized Li Lingfeng suffer. The great ancestor of the East Pole sect took out the dragon scale again. This time, he wanted to give Li Lingfeng a fatal blow. The dragon scale instantly slashed down on Li Lingfeng. Just as Li Lingfeng's head was about to be separated from his body, a hand suddenly reached out from the side and grabbed the dragon scale. When the Eastern Pole ancestor saw this, he couldn't help being startled. No one understood this dragon scale's power better than he did. No one had ever been able to grab a dragon scale with their bare hands. But now, someone had actually grabbed the dragon scale with his bare hands. How was that possible? He took a closer look and saw the person grabbing the dragon scale was a young man in a black outfit. Wisps of immortal glow were circling the young man's hand. The skin on his hand was different from the skin of an ordinary person. It was a sky blue color. It turned out that this black-clothed youth was wearing something on his hand. No wonder he dared to reach out and grab the dragon scale. The great patriarch of the East Pole sect understood, but he was still shocked. He could not tell what the other party was wearing, but it was definitely not something simple. At that moment, Li Lingfeng took advantage of the moment when the black-robed young man grabbed the dragon scale to slash out at the patriarch of the East Pole tribe. Without the protection of the dragon scale, it was very difficult for the patriarch of the East Pole tribe to block the attack. The black light sword chi that rushed out from the 10,000 demons' ancestral sword instantly slashed at the great ancestor of the East Pole. However, the next moment, the sword chi collapsed in the void. It turned out that a sword shadow had charged out from the black-robed young man's body, directly destroying the black light sword chi. Roar! Li Lingfeng roared, and the myriad demons' ancestral sword in his hand slashed at the black-robed young man. He seemed to have completely lost his mind and became a puppet of the myriad demons' ancestral sword. Buzz! Just as the sword essence of the 10,000 demons' ancestor was about to strike the black-robed young man, a rumble was heard. The shadow of a huge cauldron appeared on the black-robed young man's body, sending Li Lingfeng flying along with his sword. After blasting Li Lingfeng away, the shadow of the huge cauldron that emerged from the black-clothed young man's body also dissipated into the void, leaving no traces behind. What happened? Everyone was shocked when they saw this. Who are you? At that moment, the great ancestor of the East Pole great ancestor looked at the black-robed young man and asked calmly. On his body, the illusory figure of a dragon turtle condensed from the essence of a true dragon appeared faintly, emitting an extremely powerful pressure. This was the aura of bloodline power. If it was an ordinary quasi-supreme being, their divine soul would have been shaken long ago, and they wouldn't dare to fight with the Eastern Pole Old Ancestor at all. However, Gu Fei was different. He wasn't an ordinary quasi-supreme being. This kind of pressure was no longer able to affect him. Even if the true divine might of the extreme Tao were to descend, he would still be able to resist it. To think that there are actually descendants of the Grand Sovereign in the ancestral God realm. Gu Fei smiled, then said to the great ancestor of the East Pole sect. He didn't answer the question. What are you talking about? When the great patriarch of the East Pole heard Gu Fei's words, he was finally moved. Hee, you should know very well what I'm talking about, Gu Fei said as he looked at the East Pole patriarch. At this moment, the dragon scale in his hand gradually calmed down, causing the East Pole patriarch to be shocked. Who exactly are you? The great grandmaster of the East Pole sect had no choice but to be moved, because the dragon scale was his trump card and also his most important thing. It could even be said to be his protective talisman. He was only able to live until now because of this dragon scale. Otherwise, he would have died a long time ago. This was especially true during the era of the Great War of Gods and Devils. The Great War of Gods and Devils had affected the entire ancestral god realm. Naturally, the Eastern Pole Old Ancestor could not remain unscathed and was dragged into the war. If it weren't for the protection of the dragon scales, he would have perished in the Great War of Gods and Demons. Me? Someone who has a bit of a relationship with your relative. The person who took the dragon scale was Gu Fei. He looked down at the dragon scale in his hand. He was able to take this dragon scale because he was using the Tai Huang's cultivation technique. With the Tai Huang's cultivation technique, it was naturally a piece of cake for him to take the dragon scale. Gu Fei saw that the dragon scale in his hand was fundamentally different from ordinary dragon scales. On this dragon scale, there were actually 9 dragon-shaped Dao patterns faintly visible. The 9-dragon Dao pattern was a supreme Dao pattern created by the Tai Huang. No wonder this dragon scale was so powerful. This dragon scale was definitely at the extreme Dao level. This dragon scale was condensed with the power of the Tai Huang. It was probably the scale on the Tai Huang's body. You can't be from the dragon clan, but why do you know my clan's cultivation technique? The East Pole Patriarch stared at Gu Fei with a serious expression. An extremely dangerous aura emanated from his body. If Gu Fei answered wrongly, he would attack at any time. I've told you that I have a bit of a relationship with your relative. Why don't you believe me? The East Pole Patriarch was still skeptical. After all, he was the only one left of his bloodline. The other clansmen had long since perished. The Tai Huang and the Sky Yao had fought for the position of Monster Lord. In the end, the Sky Yao had been defeated, and the Tai Huang had succeeded. Thus, the Tai Huang's bloodline was still regarded as the orthodox lineage. The Sky Yao, on the other hand, were considered traitors. The Tai Huang and the Sky Yao had fought so fiercely that even the Tai Huang's 9 sons had been affected. Naturally, the Sky Yao's descendants had been affected as well. The truth was that old ancestor Eastpole had been hunted down by the heavenly demon clan and inadvertently escaped to the ancestral god realm. Since then, he had lived on the East continent and eventually became one of the most powerful old fogies on the East continent. The East Pole Patriarch had only recently come out of seclusion. Even though the East continent had undergone a drastic change, such as the destruction of the Golden Crow clan and the resurgence of the Chaos Golden Rock clan, he couldn't be bothered. However, when the news of the myriad god ancestral sword's appearance spread, the East Pole Patriarch could no longer sit still. By then, the East Pole Patriarch had begun to believe Gu Fei's words. I can believe you if you want, but you have to return the dragon scale to me first. The East Pole Patriarch stared at the dragon scale in Gu Fei's hand. I'll return it to you then. Gu Fei waved his hand and threw the dragon scale towards the great ancestor of the East Pole Great Ancestor. The East Pole Patriarch was in a great mood when he saw this. He hurriedly reached out and retrieved his dragon scale. Just as the East Pole Patriarch retrieved the dragon scale, Li Lingfeng, who had been sent flying by Gu Fei, attacked Gu Fei and the East Pole Patriarch with the myriad demon ancestral sword in hand. Chapter 3488. Li Lingfeng seemed to have been completely demonized. He actually attacked Gu Fei, which both shocked and infuriated Gu Fei. The power of the sword light that erupted from the myriad demons' ancestral sword was nothing to be scoffed at. In his haste, Gu Fei did not have the time to activate the saint artifact to protect himself. Swish! His figure directly disappeared into the void. The black sword light descended from the sky, creating a huge spatial crack where he had originally been. The spatial crack was like a bottomless abyss that lay across the world. The power of the laws of the world in the graveyard of the gods was very powerful. Even if the void was shattered, it would repair itself in a very short amount of time. Li Lingfeng slashed out 2 sword lights, while the other one directly descended on the great ancestor of the East Pole Great Ancestor's head. The great ancestor of the East Pole Great Ancestor, who had already retracted his dragon scale, naturally paid no attention to the sword light. He brought out his dragon scale right away. The descending sword light landed on the dragon scale, but it was blocked right away. Li Lingfeng grinned ferociously and pounced at the great ancestor of the East Pole Great Ancestor. The demonic sword in his hand shone with resplendent sword light, and the devouring power that emanated from it devoured the worldly essence in the surroundings wildly. Cosmos Devourer. Li Lingfeng roared furiously and performed a demonic ability. The black sword in his hand immediately disappeared, replaced by a pitch-black vortex. A wave of devouring demonic power surged out from the depths of the vortex. The space before the vortex immediately collapsed and was devoured by the vortex. The devouring power also enveloped the great ancestor of the East Pole Great Ancestor. However, the great ancestor of the East Pole Great Ancestor simply stood there casually. A palm-sized dragon scale hovered above his head. No matter how powerful the devouring power from the depths of the vortex was, it was unable to even move a corner of his clothes. "All right, let's stop here," said Gu Fei. Then, he flipped his right hand, and a small, unadorned cauldron the size of a fist appeared in his hand. In the next moment, a wave of energy that could awe the universe surged out from the small cauldron in Gu Fei's hand, and it suppressed the entire world. Li Lingfeng's movements immediately slowed down. It was not just Li Lingfeng. Even the great grandmaster of the East Pole felt that he was being affected by a power, which made him very displeased. By then, Gu Fei had already taken a step forward, standing between Li Lingfeng and the great ancestor of the East Pole sect. An even more powerful force of the cauldron of mountains and rivers erupted. This time, Li Lingfeng was swept away by the power of the cauldron of mountains and rivers like a gust of wind. His miserable cries rang out in the air. Even the great patriarch of the East Pole, who was protected by the dragon scales, was shaken and was forced to retreat 10,000 feet away. This, seeing that Gu Fei had actually separated Li Lingfeng and the Eastern Pole Old Ancestor by himself, everyone was inexplicably shocked. This black-clothed young man was actually powerful to such an extent. Some of the cultivators from the East Continent had long since recognized Gu Fei, but they were still shocked by the battle prowess and cultivation that Gu Fei had displayed. The Golden Crow tribe's extinction was no coincidence, and it was certainly not luck. Just as Gu Fei separated Li Lingfeng and the Eastern Pole Old Ancestor, a loud rumble suddenly rang out in the distance. The ground then began to shake, and a cloud of dust rushed up from the ground in the distance, straight into the sky. Then, the ground split open, and dust filled the air. Something deep in the ground had actually broken through the bottom layer and rushed out from the ground. Rumble! The ground shook, and it was as if the entire ground was about to collapse. Terrifying cracks that looked like abysses kept appearing on the ground. Amidst the dust that filled the sky, an ancient city rushed out from the ground. It was an incomparably huge ancient city. It broke through the soil and soared into the sky. At the same time, an incredibly holy aura of the divine way spread out from the top of the huge city, and the entire city was enveloped in a ball of divine light. Everyone stared at this scene with their mouths agape. No one had expected that there would be an ancient city deep in the graveyard of the gods. The ancient city rushed up into the sky and then floated there, not flying away. The ground was still covered in dust, and there was a huge crater in the ground. Myriad Gods' Ancestral City? The Eastern Pole Old Ancestor's eyes immediately lit up when he saw the ancient city in the sky. He then rushed up into the sky and rushed toward the ancient city. At the same time, other experts also rushed up into the sky, wanting to enter the ancient city. Roar! A terrifying roar came from the distance, and then a figure rushed over with lightning speed, about to rush into the ancient city. However, at that moment, a huge hand slapped out from the ancient city and slapped the unknown living being that was rushing over from afar away. Everyone was shocked at this scene. There was actually an expert guarding the ancient city? How was this possible? One had to know that this was the graveyard of the gods. At this time, Li Lingfeng also rushed over from the distance, directly rushing into the sky, and fiercely pouncing toward the ancient city in the sky. What myriad gods' ancestral city? Gu Fei looked up at the huge city in the sky, and his pupils involuntarily shrank. It seemed that the news of the myriad gods' ancestral sword's appearance was not fake. It was not fake news released by Li Lingfeng. Boom! Bang! Above the sky, there were continuous screams. Those who wanted to enter the huge city in the sky were all blasted away. Some of them were directly blasted into a cloud of blood mist, and their bodies and souls were destroyed. Seeing this scene, everyone was inexplicably shocked, and for a moment, no one dared to rush over. At the same time, huge figures appeared in the huge city, and from each figure, there was a powerful aura of the extreme Tao realm. What? This is impossible. Seeing this scene, Gu Fei was also shocked. Could it be that there were countless extreme Tao god ancestors hiding in the huge city? No one knew what was happening in the huge city. Terrifying silhouettes appeared one after another in the huge city, bathed in divine light. They looked incomparably holy, giving people the urge to bow down and worship them. That can't be real. Soon, Gu Fei recovered from the shock. The extreme Tao god ancestors in the huge city were not real extreme Tao god ancestors, but just shadows. Even so, Gu Fei was still shocked by the news. What kind of place was this huge city? So many supreme god ancestors had been here and left their shadows in the city that could not be erased even by time. No one knew this secret, and once it was revealed, it would definitely shock the entire ancestral god realm. Could it be? Chapter 3489. There was actually a giant city buried in the center of the graveyard of the gods. This was something that none of the cultivators in the ancestral god realm knew about, not even the super-old antiques. There's actually a city here. The great forefather of the East Pole great ancestor was also dumbfounded. He had lived long enough and knew many secrets, but he still didn't know enough about this most mysterious place in the ancestral god realm. At this time, no one cared about fighting anymore. They all stared nervously at the giant city floating in the sky in front of them. The giant city was bathed in divine light, and there was a dragon-like divine light of the great path circling around it. And in the ancient city, there was also a supreme figure faintly visible. All of this made the entire giant city look incomparably holy. Inside the ancient city, divine light swirled, as if there was a supreme divine land evolving there. The aura of the divine way spread between the heavens and the earth, actually showing signs of dispersing the aura of death that enveloped the entire graveyard of the gods. Roar! Above the giant city, when the divine power spread out, a terrifying roar came from afar. Some extremely powerful dead spirits were startled. There was no telling how many fallen gods were buried in the graveyard of the gods. Some of the bodies of gods had changed and turned into dead spirits that wandered the graveyard of the gods. Gods were not ordinary living beings, and the dead spirits transformed from the bodies of gods were not ordinary living beings that could be compared to the dead spirits transformed from the corpses of ordinary living beings. Roar! Very soon, another roar sounded from another direction. After that, a powerful aura of death swept over, and half the world turned dark. Endless aura of death was gathering, and a terrifying dead spirit was about to be born. Everyone was extremely nervous, because the aura of death was too powerful. Even the great forefather of the East Pole great ancestor had a grave expression on his face. At that moment, however, Gu Fei discovered that the demonized Li Lingfeng had disappeared to who knew where. This surprised him. The reason he had taken the risk to enter the graveyard of the gods wasn't because of the myriad god ancestral sword. Did you guys notice Li Lingfeng? Gu Fei asked the demon spider and dragon head demon beside him. I don't know. He was here a moment ago, but he disappeared in the blink of an eye. The great demon spider said. At this time, it was thinking about the Darkness Chief Sovereign's demonic essence that Gu Fei had obtained. If its master could give that demonic essence to it, that would be great. Whoever finds Li Lingfeng will get the devil origin. Gu Fei said. He naturally knew what these two guys were thinking. Yes, master. The great demon spider and dragon head demon were overjoyed when they heard this, and they immediately turned around and left. At this moment, a huge black shadow appeared in the pitch-black sky in the distance. Endless deathly aura was vast and mighty, and two blood-red lights were faintly discernible within the deathly aura. In another direction, a devilish figure also appeared between heaven and earth. The two great super-undead spirits actually showed signs of gathering and annihilating a group of experts from the ancestral god realm. This was definitely not a good thing for the experts of the ancestral god realm. At this time, Gu Fei was watching this scene like an outsider. To the ancestral god realm, he was originally just a passerby. Although he had cultivated his own forces here, he still had to return to the human world in the end. He couldn't stay in the ancestral god realm forever. Oh no. The experts of the ancestral god realm couldn't help but change their expressions. At this time, in the towering deathly aura, countless silhouettes could be faintly discernible. They were the silhouettes of countless undead spirits. It was an army of undead spirits. These super-undead spirits were much stronger than quasi-supreme beings, so they naturally had an army of undead spirits fighting for them. The graveyard of the gods was very large, much larger than any of the 5 great continents of the ancestral god realm. Naturally, such a large place wasn't something that could be completely occupied by a single supreme dead spirit. What should we do? Is this really a trap? Someone cried out in alarm. Even the old antiques of the ancestral god realm, who were used to seeing storms, couldn't sit still. However, the huge city in the sky was truly the myriad gods' ancestral city. Perhaps the legendary number 1 divine weapon of the ancestral god realm really was in the city. The aura of the ancestral city was simply too astonishing. However, the ancestral city was protected by a powerful force. Even the old antiques wouldn't have an easy time barging in, let alone others. Rumble. Just as the experts of the ancestral god realm were at a loss as to what to do, the sound of wind and thunder suddenly came from the distant sky. Everyone looked in the direction of the sound and were shocked. They saw a huge black hand directly grabbing at the huge city from the distant sky. The huge hand erupted with a monstrous deathly energy that shook the entire world. The terrifying super-undead spirit in the distance had made its move. Deathly energy erupted in the sky, filling the earth and sky with an oppressive atmosphere that made everyone's heart palpitate. Everyone found it difficult to breathe. Everyone watched this scene nervously, but no one tried to stop it. Boom! The huge black hand directly grabbed the layer of divine light in the sky above the huge city. The layer of divine light shook violently as if it was about to be torn apart by the black hand. The divine power and the deathly energy collided, producing terrifying waves that forced the experts of the divine clan to retreat further away. It's as powerful as a quasi-supreme expert's all-out attack. Gu Fei couldn't help but be shocked at this scene. The super-undead spirit was indeed powerful. A casual attack was so powerful that a quasi-supreme expert was definitely no match for it. The super-undead spirit was definitely one of the most powerful existences below the extreme Tao. It was an existence at the same level as Tsongquebec. At this moment, the divine light that shrouded the myriad gods' ancestral city gradually dimmed, as if it was about to be torn apart by the black ghost hand. However, at this moment, a figure in the myriad gods' ancestral city moved. Vaguely, the figure seemed to have struck out a palm. Then, the huge black hand directly collapsed in the void. The deathly aura that shrouded the world seemed to have been dispersed, and the dim world became bright again. Roar! A terrifying roar came from afar, and the monstrous devil Chi was surging. A ferocious and terrifying devil shadow was emitting a strong devil nature aura, which almost affected the minds of some god ancestor experts. Demonic aura was hard to resist. It could trigger a cultivator's inner demons. Once the inner demons arose, it would be very difficult to get rid of them. Swish. Chapter 3490. There was no doubt about the power of a super dead spirit. A demonic arrow shot from afar, directly piercing through the layer of divine light that shrouded the sky above the giant city, and hit a figure in the giant city. What? Seeing this, all the experts of the divine clan were shocked. This super undead spirit seemed to be much more powerful than the previous one. At this time, Gu Fei found that the demonic arrow that hit the figure in the city had turned into a gust of black chi and dissipated in the void. Then, the figure disappeared as well. A demonic arrow actually destroyed a supreme master's figure in the city of 10,000 gods' ancestral gods. Such a result shocked the super antiques. Existences like the East Pole Old Ancestor naturally knew what the figures in the city were. They were the figures left behind by supreme god ancestors. After countless years, they still existed and never disappeared. But now, the super undead spirit had directly destroyed a supreme master's figure. The power of this arrow shocked even Gu Fei. At this time, in the distant sky, the pitch-black devil chi was rapidly sweeping towards the city of 10,000 gods' ancestral gods. Within the devil chi, countless figures could be vaguely seen. The undead spirit army had arrived. All the experts of the ancestral god realm were shocked. A great battle broke out. Some god ancestor experts directly rushed into the devil chi and fought with the countless undead spirits. One by one, the undead spirits were blasted out of the devil chi by the god ancestor experts. When the devil chi dissipated, countless undead spirits rushed out and attacked the city of 10,000 gods' ancestral gods. The super undead spirits' target was the city of 10,000 gods' ancestral gods, not the experts of the divine clan. Swoosh! Another demonic arrow was shot from afar. Once again, it easily pierced through the divine light, but this time, a figure in the city reached out and grabbed the demonic arrow. Boom! In the next moment, with a loud bang, the demonic arrow that was being held actually exploded, turning into a ball of demonic fire that instantly enveloped the figure. What? Seeing this, everyone was shocked, but then they let out a sigh of relief. They saw that the demonic flames had dissipated, and the figure was still standing there, as if he hadn't been affected at all. Among the supreme god ancestors, there were strong ones and weak ones. The residual shadows left by the powerful supreme god ancestors were naturally extremely powerful. It was absolutely necessary. Kill. At this time, silhouettes flickered near the myriad gods' ancestral city. Some experts of the celestial race opened up their inner worlds and released the celestial race's combat soldiers. Just like that, a massive battle erupted. Countless figures moved through the air at high speed as the power of the divine Tao clashed with the power of death. Dead spirits fell from the sky one after another as their bodies and souls were destroyed. There were also ancestral god armaments that were killed by the undead spirits. Blood splattered everywhere. Master, I found it. Just as Gu Fei was about to make his move, a voice suddenly rang out in his mind. Found it? Gu Fei was both surprised and overjoyed. In the next moment, his figure disappeared into the void. However, at this moment, a rumble suddenly rang out in the void. Then, Gu Fei's figure fell out of the void. What? Gu Fei was shocked. Never had he imagined that someone would actually confine an area of the heavens and the earth, and even he was unable to escape. It was truly detestable. Master, come quickly. Help. The voice of the supreme demon spider continued to ring in Gu Fei's mind. Gu Fei used the 8 desolation steps. With just one step, he rushed out of the encirclement of the undead spirits. He took another step and disappeared into the void. Boom! Bam! Dull crashing sounds rang out continuously. The three figures moved quickly in the void like three residual shadows. They were almost invisible to the naked eye. One had to admit that the demonized Li Lingfeng was really terrifying. The demonic sword in his hand displayed extreme power. At least, the supreme demon spider and the dragon head demon did not dare to fight head-on with it. Withdraw. Gu Fei took out the cauldron of mountain and river as soon as he appeared. He activated the cauldron of mountain and river. A terrifying, devouring power immediately surged out of the cauldron and enveloped Li Lingfeng. Although Li Lingfeng had been demonized, he knew the danger and immediately retreated. However, Gu Fei followed him like a shadow. A rumble came from the cauldron of mountain and river. 9 ancient runes appeared on the body of the cauldron. In the next moment, Li Lingfeng and his sword were sucked into the cauldron of mountain and river. Master is mighty. Seeing this, the supreme demon spider and the dragon head demon were stunned. They hurriedly knelt before Gu Fei. Rise. Gu Fei was in a good mood after putting Li Lingfeng and the supreme demon ancestral sword away. He then took out the demonic source that he had obtained from the ruler of darkness. Although the demonic source was only the size of a fist, the demonic power that emanated from it was unimaginably powerful. Endless demonic light shone from the fist-sized demonic source. This was the purest demonic yuan qi. As long as the supreme demon spider or the dragon head demon devoured it, their cultivation would definitely soar by 1 or 2 levels. The supreme demon spider and the dragon head demon stared at the demonic source in Gu Fei's hand. They wanted nothing more than to pounce on Gu Fei and snatch the demonic source away. Gu Fei glanced at the supreme demon spider and the dragon head demon. Then, he directly split the divine light in half with his sword. He gave the 2 halves of the demonic source to the supreme demon spider and the dragon head demon. The supreme demon spider and the dragon head demon immediately took the demonic source from Gu Fei's hand with great joy. The supreme demon spider immediately swallowed the demonic source in one gulp. Then, it sat cross-legged in the void and operated the demonic power to refine the essence of the demonic source. Seeing this, the dragon head demon naturally wouldn't show any weakness. He also sat cross-legged and swallowed the demonic source in his hand. In the next moment, a mass of demonic light emerged from the dragon head demon's body and enveloped him. Within the demonic light, one could vaguely see demonic patterns faintly appearing and intertwining. These 2 guys, Gu Fei was somewhat speechless. He pondered for a moment and then waved his sleeves to keep the supreme demon spider and the dragon head demon into his inner world. Then, he turned around. At this moment, the vicinity of Myriad Deity Ancestral City was filled with fast-moving figures in the sky and on the ground. Battle cries shook the sky. When Gu Fei returned, a super dead spirit had already attacked the huge city. This made Gu Fei feel incredulous that there was such a powerful existence in the present world. That super undead spirit was powerful to the extreme, and it was actually fighting endlessly against the afterimages of the supreme beings in the city with incomparable ferocity. Boom! With a muffled sound, a figure flew out of the huge city. This is Chapter 35:17. The myriad god ancestral city that appeared in the depths of the graveyard of the gods contained a great secret of the world that attracted generations of extreme supremes from the ancestral god realm. At this time, in the myriad god ancestral city's city lord mansion, there was a building that looked like an altar. There was a stone that was as tall as a person. Clearly, this was a divine stone. There was a lot of blood on it, and the blood seemed to have just splashed on it. It didn't seem to have solidified. Every drop of blood was glowing with a bloody light, giving off a fiendish aura. Wow, this blood is incredible. The Fire Ape progenitor, who was standing beside Gu Fei, exclaimed in shock. He was an extreme supremes, so he could tell that the blood on the stone was definitely left behind by an extreme supremes. Only the blood of an extreme supremes could last for eternity and never dry up. The life form sealed inside the stone is even more incredible, Gu Fei said in a deep voice. He wasn't sure if there was a life form sealed inside the stone. Perhaps it was just a shadow, but it could also be a life form. However, Regardless of whether the thing inside the stone was a shadow or a life form, Gu Fei didn't want to provoke it. This thing might be a great omen. How do we deal with it? Gu Fei asked the old man. Of course, we'll take it away. The old man looked at the stone in front of him. He was very interested in it. It was something from the primordial chaos world, and he seemed to care a lot about that world. The primordial chaos world was the legendary origin of the myriad worlds. Be it the human world, heavenly world, desolate world, primal chaos demon world, or ancestral god realm, they were all derived from the primordial chaos world. Gu Fei was also very curious about that world, but he knew that the life forms of that world would never welcome him. There might even be life forms from the primordial chaos world in the ancestral god realm. Otherwise, this stone wouldn't have appeared in the ancestral god realm. Are you sure? Gu Fei was a little surprised. Wasn't this guy afraid of trouble the most? He actually wanted to take this stone. If he were to be tainted by the karma, it might be very troublesome. Of course, the little old man said. He did not immediately take away the strange stone. Instead, he circled around the strange stone and examined it carefully, as if he was studying the patterns on the strange stone. At this time, Gu Fei suddenly felt that the blurry figure inside the strange stone seemed to move. Did he miss it? Gu Fei was very surprised. It must be known that with his current cultivation, he would not have any illusions at all. Perhaps the figure inside the strange stone had really moved. Boom! All of a sudden, a muffled sound shook the entire myriad god's ancestral city. What's going on? Everyone on the altar was startled, because the tremors were coming from under their feet. They looked down and saw that the ground beneath their feet had actually cracked. Ancient runes emerged from the ground beneath their feet, interweaving into Tao diagrams that suppressed the extremely powerful force that erupted from the altar. Could there be something sealed below? The fire ape progenitor said in shock. That's right. There is a living being from that world sealed here. The sword slave spoke. As the protector of myriad gods' ancestral city, he naturally knew what was inside the city lord mansion. Why didn't you say so earlier? The little old man was going crazy. This fellow was simply cheating them. He clearly knew that there was a living being sealed here, and yet he did not tell them. You guys didn't even ask. The sword slave shrugged and said, You. The little old man was speechless. Boom. Another muffled sound came from the ground. This time, the ground cracked and the strange stone was almost blown away. The little old man waved his hand, and the strange stone immediately disappeared, taken away by him. Just as the little old man took away the strange stone, the power beneath the altar exploded in an instant, and cracking sounds rang out incessantly. Dodge. The little old man soared into the sky and evaded. Gu Fei and the rest reacted and rushed out of the altar. In the next moment, boom! With a loud bang, the entire altar exploded. Countless fragments shot out in all directions, and countless Tao patterns dissipated in the void. At the same time, a figure rushed out from the ground. Roar! The figure rushed into the sky and roared at the sky. Terrifying sound waves spread out and ripples visible to the naked eye appeared in the void. Gu Fei and the rest were shocked. Was this fella a living being from that world? The living being had the body of a human, but its body was covered in green scales. Its limbs were long and its blood-red eyes shone with a ferocious light. A murderous aura spread out from the living being's body. Gu Fei was shocked. This living being was different from the primordial chaotic world's living beings that he had killed previously. This living being gave off an extremely powerful and dangerous feeling. What the hell are you shouting for? The fire ape primogenitor cursed and charged towards the living being, smashing his mace down on the living being's head. Who cares if it's a primordial chaotic world's living being? I'll kill it first. Clang. The fire ape primogenitor's golden rod smashed against the living being's arm, but there was a metallic clang. What a strong defense. Gu Fei was shocked. This guy could actually use his flesh and blood to block his golden rod. This guy's fleshly body was really tough to the extreme. Roar. The living being roared and pounced towards the fire ape primogenitor. It was extremely ferocious. Die. The fire ape primogenitor roared and extended his right hand. A huge palm appeared in the void and covered the entire sky, grabbing towards the living being. The living being screamed and spat out a ball of chaotic fire towards the fire ape primogenitor's hand. Right at this moment, the sword slave attacked. He actually pierced the head of that living being with a single sword strike and pinned the living being in midair. In the next moment, the living being's body exploded into a bloody mist. But very quickly, Gu Fei realized that something was wrong. Can't even withstand a single blow. The fire ape primogenitor retreated and stood next to Gu Fei. However, he couldn't speak in the next moment. The bloody mist didn't dissipate. Instead, it wriggled. In a few breaths' time, the bloody mist formed into a person. This living being came from the primordial chaotic world and had mastered a secret technique that could allow rebirth. The fire ape primogenitor couldn't help but be shocked. This fellow was practically unkillable. Just as the fire ape primogenitor was fighting against the powerful being from the primordial chaotic world, the scales on the living being's body could actually fly and turn into a sword light that slashed at the fire ape primogenitor. Clanging sounds rang out incessantly as the fire ape primogenitor fought against the being from the primordial chaotic world. Gu Fei, the sword slave, and the others retreated far away. One had to know that this was a battle between two extreme Dao experts. If they were careless and got caught up in the shockwaves, they would definitely die. "You're still not going to help?" Gu Fei asked the old man beside him. "Help what? That's his own battlefield. Bystanders can't interfere." The old man replied. This was the rule of the older generation. He wouldn't help the fire ape primogenitor, but he kept staring at Chicken Thigh, who was fighting against the fire ape primogenitor. Rumble. The heaven and earth shook. No one expected the living being that rushed out of the altar to be this strong. It was too heaven-defying. Preposterous. The fire ape primogenitor was both shocked and furious. The other party's combat strength was too strong, on par with him. If this continued, when would he be able to kill this fella? The extreme Dao Supremes were all arrogant. The fire ape primogenitor didn't ask for help. If it was the sword slave or the extreme Dao corpse demon, any one of them would be able to defeat this living being. At this time, a powerful aura came from another part of the city lord's mansion. Boom. At the same time, an incomparably huge silhouette stood up from the city lord's mansion. A chilling, killing intent spread out from the silhouette. What's going on? Gu Fei was shocked and enraged. Swish. The sword slave's silhouette instantly disappeared into the void. Very quickly, his silhouette appeared in front of the huge silhouette. There was actually another silhouette standing inside the huge silhouette. This startled the sword slave, but he didn't think too much about it and directly slashed at the silhouette. Buzz. A sword cry resounded through the 9 heavens. An extremely resplendent sword light rushed out from the sword slave's hand, slashing towards the silhouette in front of him. Swish. The sword light flashed and disappeared at an extremely fast speed. The huge figure did not have time to dodge at all. It was directly slashed in half by the sword light and dissipated in the void. However, the living being inside the silhouette disappeared in an instant. Even with the sword slave's eyesight, he couldn't see how the foreign living being disappeared. In the next moment, the living being suddenly appeared behind the sword slave and smashed a fist towards the sword slave. A powerful fist force exploded, destroying and shattering the void. However, a ball of sword light emerged from the sword slave's body and enveloped him. The living being's fist smashed against the sword slave's protective sword light. Bam! A muffled sound resounded. The sword slave only felt a powerful force coming in, and he actually couldn't help but take a few steps forward. Kill! The sword slave was infuriated. With a roar, countless sword lights suddenly erupted from his body. Every sword light cut through the void, displaying an incomparably powerful might. The sword lights filled every inch of the void. The living being couldn't dodge at all and was instantly pierced by the countless sword lights. Chapter 35:18. There was a drastic change in Myriad God's ancestral city. A living being sealed in the altar beneath the wondrous rock broke the seal and rushed out. Extreme Dao level power erupted from this living being. Although this creature was humanoid, its body was covered in green scales, its limbs were long, and it had a pair of blood-red pupils that made one's heart palpitate. Everyone was astonished to see the creature's appearance. What shocked Gu Fei the most was that the creature was actually an extreme Great Path creature. The fire ape primogenitor charged forward and engaged in a huge battle with this living being. However, the fire ape primogenitor didn't expect that the life-form's body was so strong that it could contend against a saint weapon of extreme Tao with its own body. The two powerhouses clashed. Extreme Tao-level power erupted and shook the entire myriad god ancestral city. Roar! The fire ape primogenitor was unstoppable. The golden staff in his hand exploded with supreme power and forced the life form to retreat. However, the life form wasn't weak either. Though it was in a sorry state, it wasn't defeated by the fire ape primogenitor. Clang! The scales on the mysterious creature's body began to vibrate. Then, an incredibly sharp sword beam shot out from each of the scales, piercing towards the fire ape primogenitor. Oomph! The fire ape primogenitor's body shook. His armor lit up and countless Tao runes rushed out of it. These Tao runes weaved around his body and formed a light barrier that enveloped the fire ape primogenitor within. The sword light from the mysterious life form landed on the light shield around the fire ape primogenitor and was blocked by the light shield. The mysterious life form was startled. But at this time, the fire ape primogenitor counterattacked. The golden staff in his hand grew to the size of a heavenly pillar and smashed down on the mysterious life form's head. Rumble! The entire void shook as the golden staff smashed down. The void shattered, and even chaotic energy was smashed out. Swoosh! The mysterious life form's figure instantly disappeared, and the fire ape primogenitor's attack missed. In the next moment, the mysterious life form suddenly appeared in the sky above the fire ape primogenitor. Then, it formed a seal with both hands and pressed down on the fire ape primogenitor. The power of the seal spread out from the mysterious creature's hands, and the entire space seemed to solidify. The fire ape primogenitor, who bore the brunt of the attack, was immediately sealed in ice. But in the next moment, boom! The ice on fire ape primogenitor's body exploded as a ball of extreme Tao true fire erupted from his body. It was like a divine sun had appeared above myriad god ancestral city, dispersing all of the frigid energy. The mysterious creature did not show any signs of weakness. A powerful cold force burst out of its body and blocked the mighty extreme true fire. Kill! Kill! The two figures collided once again. At the same time, on the other side of myriad god ancestral city, the sword slave and another mysterious expert were locked in a fierce battle. Rays of extreme Tao sword light slashed through the void from time to time. On the other hand, the mysterious living being that was battling the sword slave was like a wisp of smoke, as if it didn't have a body of flesh and blood. Streaks of sword light slashed through its body, but it didn't hurt it at all. The void around the sword slave and the mysterious life form was shrouded in a faint mist. The mist came from the mysterious life form's body. It was like the life form's clones, and each strand of mist could transform into the mysterious life form. The mysterious life form appeared and disappeared mysteriously, giving the sword slave a headache. This ancient city actually has a life form from that world sealed. How surprising. The little old man couldn't help but be moved by this scene. One had to know that the two life forms that broke the seal were life forms from the primordial chaos world. These two creatures were extremely powerful, and they were both true extreme Tao Supremes. However, they had been sealed for countless years, and their vitality had long since been greatly damaged. Otherwise, the sword slave wouldn't have been a match for the mysterious life form. Even so, the sword slave couldn't hold on any longer. After all, he wasn't a true extreme Tao supremacy, so he couldn't fight against one. You go. Gu Fei said to the extreme Tao corpse demon beside him. The extreme Tao corpse demon did not say anything and instantly disappeared. In the next moment, when he reappeared, he had already charged into the void that was shrouded in mist. What? The mysterious creature was startled upon seeing this. At the same time, a cloud of death chi rushed out of the extreme Tao corpse demon's body. In the next moment, a torrential death chi enveloped half the world. When the death chi came into contact with the mist, it immediately corroded it, leaving no place for the mysterious life form to hide. When the sword slave saw the extreme Tao corpse demon facing off against the mysterious life form, he immediately retreated. He didn't want to be affected by the explosion of energy between the two powerhouses. The mysterious life form's silhouette finally appeared in the sky. It looked like an illusory figure that could be blown away by a gust of wind. The extreme Tao corpse demon didn't care who that fellow was. The aura emitted from that fellow was a little strange, so he immediately pounced towards that figure. The figure suddenly turned into a spear and pierced towards the forehead of the extreme Tao corpse demon that was pouncing towards it. Everyone was shocked when they saw this scene. What's going on? Could it be that the mysterious life form can transform into any weapon? In the next moment, the extreme Tao corpse demon's right hand grabbed forward. The spear directly pierced his palm and emitted a clanging sound. The spear was sent flying away. When the spear disappeared, the blurry figure of the mysterious life form appeared in the void, emitting a tyrannical aura of the extreme Tao corpse demon. Fortunately, these extreme Tao existences were fighting in the myriad deity ancestral city. If they were fighting in the outside world, many people would have died. Even the myriad deity ancestral city was shaking violently. Cracks appeared on the ground as if it would collapse at any moment. This caused Gu Fei to be indescribably shocked. After all, in his knowledge, this ancient city had existed since time immemorial, so it was impossible for it to be destroyed. At this moment, several other places in the myriad deity ancestral city also emitted powerful auras. Another powerful existence broke the seal and came out. What should we do? Gu Fei asked the little old man. This ancient city was indeed hiding a great secret of heaven and earth. There was actually a life form from the primal chaos world sealed here. Chapter 35:19. What's going on? The myriad god ancestral city shook violently. The powerful beings sealed within the city were trying to break free and regain their freedom. However, the seal within the city had been reinforced by generations of extreme Tao sovereigns in the ancestral god world. How could it be easy for these beings to break free? Rumble. The ancient city continued to shake, but at the same time, more and more Tao runes surged out of the ancient city, interweaving into Tao diagrams that sealed the primogenitor world's beings. At this time, the old man seemed to have discovered something. In an inconspicuous corner, there was an altar, an incomparably ancient altar. The little old man waved his right hand, and the altar immediately flew up and flew towards him, where he grabbed it. The altar was engraved with incomparably ancient Tao runes. Even a knowledgeable existence like the old man didn't know the origin of these Tao runes. The little old man carefully channeled a strand of divine power into the altar. In the next moment, the markings on the altar lit up. After that, a ball of divine light surged out from the altar and directly opened up a passageway in the void that led to an unknown place. The little old man and Gu Fei were very surprised. This altar was actually a teleportation array platform. Where could this teleportation array platform teleport people to? At this time, the divine power that the old man had injected into the teleportation formation was completely consumed by the formation. The passage opened up by the formation also disappeared. The old man in the form of the mountain river cauldron hurriedly injected another strand of divine power into the teleportation formation, and the passage above the formation reappeared. Gu Fei was very curious about where the other end of the teleportation formation platform was. Then, a figure rushed out from his body and directly rushed into the passage above the teleportation formation platform. The old man continued to inject divine power into the teleportation formation to maintain its operation. Half an hour later, Gu Fei's clone finally returned. To be more precise, his clone had escaped because there was a large group of beings chasing after him. Very soon, a buzzing sound could be heard from the teleportation channel. Fist-sized poisonous wasps surrounded by chaotic aura flew out of the teleportation channel. These poisonous bees flew directly towards Gu Fei and the little old man, which gave them a shock. However, the little old man suddenly stretched out his hand, and a suction force emerged from his palm, directly grabbing the swarm of wasps that flew out of the teleportation channel. "You want this too?" Gu Fei said. This kind of poisonous bee was very formidable. If one was stung by it, even a quasi-supreme being would be poisoned. "This is good stuff." The little old man kept these poisonous bees into the mountain and river cauldron, then asked about the situation on the other side of the teleportation channel. At this time, the ancient teleportation array had already stopped. The teleportation channel above the teleportation formation platform naturally disappeared as well. "It might be the primogenitor realm," Gu Fei said in a heavy tone. The primogenitor realm was the primordial chaotic world. This world was the origin of all worlds, the birthplace of all worlds. This world could be said to be the highest level of world. The living beings in this world were naturally extremely powerful. Those poisonous bees were the best proof. Primogenitor realm? The little old man was shocked. He seemed to be very afraid of this world. No one would have thought that this ancient altar was actually a teleportation formation platform that led to the primogenitor realm. At this time, two powerful divine thoughts suddenly swept over from afar. Then, two figures of extreme Tao immediately rushed towards the little old man. Those were the two mysterious living beings. They were targeting the teleportation formation platform in the little old man's hand. A smoke-like figure instantly floated in front of the little old man and Gu Fei. Gu Fei naturally retreated. With his cultivation, it was still impossible for him to fight against a true extreme Tao supreme being. Fortunately, the two mysterious living beings' target was not Gu Fei, but the little old man. "Hand over the teleportation formation platform." The other mysterious living being roared angrily and attacked the little old man to snatch the ancient teleportation formation platform. A large hand reached out from afar and enveloped the little old man. "I'll hand it over just because you want me to? What a joke." The little old man glanced at the two of them and said disdainfully. At the same time, he opened his mouth and inhaled. The large hand that was grabbing towards him was swallowed in one gulp. The mysterious living being had arrived. He did not expect the little old man to be so powerful. "Come in." The little old man flipped his right hand, and an ancient cauldron immediately appeared in his hand. In the next moment, a devouring force appeared from the cauldron, wanting to swallow the mysterious living being as well. The mysterious living being immediately flew towards the mountain river cauldron involuntarily. Just as it was about to be swallowed by the mountain river cauldron, a hand suddenly reached out from the side and pulled the mysterious living being over. Seeing the fat meat that was right in his mouth escape, the little old man was enraged. At the same time, the fire ape ancestor and the extreme Tao corpse demon had already charged over. They fought the two mysterious living beings endlessly. The strong power of the extreme Tao spread out, and the entire space seemed like it was going to turn into chaos again. "You've lucked out today." The little old man then merged with the mountain river cauldron in his hand. A terrifying wave of energy immediately appeared between heaven and earth. At that moment, the little old man's combat power was raised to its limit. Terrifying divine power rippled out, and even the fire ape ancestor and the extreme Tao corpse demon were terrified. "This guy is going to go crazy again." The fire ape ancestor couldn't help but mourn for the two mysterious living beings. As expected, the little old man charged towards the mysterious living being that the fire ape ancestor was fighting against. With just one punch, the little old man threw the mysterious living being away. Roar! After the mysterious living being steadied itself, it howled at the sky. However, just as the mysterious creature raised its head and roared, a fist directly smashed towards its face. With a bang, a small part of the mysterious creature's face caved in, and blood spurted out from its nose. The mysterious living being shrieked in agony. The little old man continued to attack. At that moment, the fire ape ancestor retreated and watched the show from the side. Very quickly, the mysterious living being that was fighting against the fire ape ancestor was beaten black and blue by the little old man. It was then subdued by the little old man. The other mysterious living being wanted to escape, but it was entangled by the extreme Tao Corpse demon. It couldn't escape even if it wanted to. Without any suspense, the two powerful living beings from the ancestral realm were finally subdued by the little old man. Gu Fei had two more capable assistants. This caused Gu Fei to be both surprised and delighted. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.